Maverick News, the antivirus program for your mind. And now, the Freedom Reporters.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker with Maverick News, and I'm here with my co-host,
Brendan Kennedy, co-host for Maverick News. Good evening, everybody. Happy Thursday. How's everybody doing?
Lots of stuff happening today. We did do a news update around 11:30 this morning to just let everyone know that Senator Ted Cruz was out cruising with the truckers. He was riding shotgun with the Peoples Convoy around the Beltway, circling Washington, D.C. And it was quite a spectacle. Thousands of trucks are still there. In fact, the convoy brigade, if you want to call it that, or parade, has been growing as more convoys find their way to the Hagerstown Raceway, which they are using as a staging area. And the convoy, Brendan, was so big today that it literally stretched all the way around and overlapped the Beltway. So they had enough trucks to completely encircle the Beltway. So the lead truck, which was carrying Ted Cruz, actually finished a lap and was seeing trucks on the other side of the road going the other way. That's how big it is. And that's well over 60, I think it's like 62 or 67 miles in length. That's how many trucks are there. And yet there's been virtually no coverage from the major television networks of this event. There has been a little bit of coverage from some of the local network affiliates, and just a smattering of coverage from some of the major networks, but it's been basically buried. They're trying to ignore this, and when they have reported on it, apparently there was some local ABC affiliate that said the truckers had failed to block the traffic on the Beltway, which just shows how ignorant they are and how desperate they are to smear these truckers and discredit them because they're not trying to block the traffic on the Beltway. They're out there cruising, and they have been in contact with the local law enforcement, the police services, and they're conducting themselves in a completely lawful manner. They're doing nothing wrong. They're not trying to disrupt or block traffic at all. They're simply making their presence known, and they are acting in a very diplomatic way right now. And that is what led to their meeting yesterday with Senator Cruz and Senator Ron Johnson. And Ted Cruz was down there this morning, and we have video of that. We ran that video earlier today for people at 11:30 this morning when we went live to just bring everybody up to date on what was going on. We'll rerun some of it. We have some additional video. We have some live feeds from the People's Convoy to share with you tonight. And in a very short time, we have an interview with a trucker lined up. They'll be joining us live as well. And we'll get a firsthand account of what's been going on there through the day, what the status is, what the mood is like. We're just gonna get the whole story for you firsthand from someone who is right there. One of our contacts, one of our people on the ground lined this up for us. So we'll have a live feed out of there and a live interview for you coming up here on Maverick News and the Freedom Reporters. Because you know why? Because we are the antivirus program for your mind.
You're damn straight. So I mean, you don't have to take our words for what's going on down there. And unlike mainstream media, we actually do our homework. So they could stick it.
Well, I'll tell you, I think the mood down there is pretty high right now. Having Ted Cruz come down there this morning and ride in the lead truck, I think it put a little wind into their sails, and shows that they are making some progress, and they are at least getting some recognition for what they're doing, and that's a big step forward. Really big step. And Ted Cruz is a big name in politics. He has a big voice on the conservative side, and he's a political force to be sure. So to have him paying attention and to have him stand up today and say that in his words, the truckers deserve to be heard, that's important, because it gives the whole movement there renewed and boosted credibility, and that is very important. So it's encouraging to see him put his weight behind the movement.
That is very important, and once again, I do wish them all the luck, and they are battling a lot of things here, not just the mainstream media, but I mean, they're fighting for people's attentions as well with everything happening out east in Ukraine and in Russia. Like, there's so many things that they're combating in that regard. So,
yeah, Alicia Smith says Trudeau is on a world photo op, and we'll have some things to say about that in just a couple of minutes, right? Because it's true. That's what he's doing. Mr. Socks is out not just for selfies, but posing for the mainstream media again, internationally, trying to boost his approval ratings, I guess.
Well, not only that, we got the proof for it. Is anything that Justin Trudeau likes more than anything in the whole wide world is photo ops. I mean, we've all seen that meme where he's sitting in a war room and he's pointing out on a map, I want to take selfies here, here, and there.
Yeah, Frank Martin says Cruz is redeeming himself from some of his comments, and I totally get that. And I hope that Ted Cruz has not just been down there for a photo op. I hope that he backs up what he's been saying. And we should note that he did say very positive things about the Canadian truckers as well. And that was pretty important. And he's stepping up to the plate here, although he has a ways to go to rebuild trust with I think people who would normally make up his political base because of some of the things he said in the past. So let's talk a little bit. We'll come back to the truckers because we have that live interview coming up shortly, and we'll kind of fold everything into a whole segment on what's going on with the People's Convoy. You know, we'll hopefully be able to pick up any of the speeches that happen there a little later tonight as well. That usually happens around 8:15, 8:30 or so. So we'll be able to pick that up. We've got our interview. We'll show you the footage of Ted Cruz, and we'll just get the whole update there. But Brendan, this stuff in Ukraine is still spiraling out of control. This whole thing with the biolabs has me very concerned. It's got a lot of people concerned, and I think the Biden administration, honestly, is in panic mode over it. And I can understand why, because I think they got caught doing bad things they ought not be doing. Really, really, really bad things. Things that were supposed to be, what? Oh, a conspiracy theory, which we were telling you about, what was it, 4 nights ago? We drew people's attention to it. It was stuff that, I personally, and I think maybe you can speak for yourself, but I thought it was probably not true, that it was an exaggeration or maybe just a fabrication, that these biolabs didn't exist, until we saw the video of Victoria Nuland from the State Department confirming that they're actually there. We should run that clip again to let people hear that one more time. And even though she confirmed it, and it became very clear what has been going on in Ukraine. Now I have it here somewhere. If I can save you searching for it. I think I've still got it queued up. I do.
I have it here.
Yeah, you leave yours queued up, your other clip, and I'll grab this one here.
Roger
to save you the grief. Yeah, we'll run this again just to show you that this was confirmed. So in a hearing, Marco Rubio asks Victoria Nuland a question about the biolabs. The biolabs that apparently were supposed to be fictitious, that weren't supposed to exist, that were a conspiracy theory. He asks this question, and we got this answer, which spoke volumes, even though the answer wasn't really that long.
Well, I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country, and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
There you have it. Why would they be so concerned about just research facilities? Isn't that just very interesting? And man, I gotta tell you, that Victoria Nuland, she's got her fingerprints all over Ukraine going back years and years. Like, it is absolutely shocking. We played the video for you all here with the leaked conversation that she's had with the ambassador to the United States, in Ukraine, which she made comments like "F the EU" and that sort of thing.
That goes back years.
Yeah,
and that was a conversation where they were discussing the transition of power, which was really a political coup,
big time,
in Ukraine, which was led by our countries, the United States, NATO, the European Union, Canada would have been involved. And the whole objective was to unseat the president of Ukraine and put their guy in. And who did they put in? Zelensky. And so that's really what this is. Now they're saying they're over there defending democracy. Well, we know that what really happened in Ukraine was a CIA-led color revolution, and they put in their own guy. And that's why even now the political opposition is in prison, because it's not really a democracy. It's a puppet government with a puppet president put in by Obama and Victoria Nuland, and continuing to be propped up by Biden and his administration. And Victoria Nuland is still there. She was one of the architects of the color revolution, and now,
along with Joe Biden, who was the primary contact for all of it. So
Yes.
The United States doesn't get to go around the world and kick hornets' nests wherever it wants to, and then claim that there's a big that they're defending democracy in that country. This is absurd.
Look, you know what, Brendan? I don't want to be saying this stuff. I don't want to be telling people this stuff. I feel ashamed
We should
to
all
be
be
telling
ashamed.
people about it.
We
Because
should all be ashamed.
man, I have no doubt that Canada, the Canadian government, is aware and has done nothing about it.
Of course. Of
We-
course. Why do
wherever
you
the
think,
United States goes, we're right there with them.
why do you think our main government officials, regardless of being caught at a public rally with a Banderite flag, make no statements about the neo-Nazis that are all over the place in the Ukraine? And I've got video lined up here to show more of that, and a Twitter story to also show about that. But speaking of biolabs, this is very important to look at here. This was a tweet it's a TikTok that started going around, and it's highlighting top biotech and pharmaceutical companies in Kiev, Ukraine area. So you have IKVIA, and it goes on to show like this blows through them all really quickly. But look at this. This company here has over 1,000 employees. Here's Bayer, over 1,000 employees. Biotech and pharmaceuticals. It's also important to note that Bayer had worked very closely in Nazi Germany to create deadly gases and things like that.
You know, the truth has woven its way into Victoria Nuland's statement. Did you want to mention something about this one too?
No, it just do you want me to just let it play?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. AstraZeneca.
AstraZeneca. Yeah. PPG.
Johnson and Johnson.
Uh-huh. Gee,
Takeda.
it seems like there's a trend here. Doesn't there seem to be a common denominator?
Hmm.
And, you know, with Victoria Nuland, Marco Rubio asks the question, do the Ukrainians have biological weapons?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was not no. It was that they have biological research labs. If these facilities in Ukraine were just producing, say, Bayer aspirin, or if they were just researching, I don't know,
Puppy dog medicines for your puppy.
or fleas caused people to get itchy, or you know, if fleas were spreading Lyme disease or something, right? Then the answer would have just been easy. It would have just simply been no.
Yeah.
No, they don't have biological weapons, and they don't have biological weapons labs. But that wasn't the answer we got, was it? The answer was not no. No. The answer was what we got, which tells you that whatever they're doing in those labs, there seems to be some connection to biological weapons, because the answer was not no. And if they don't have biological weapons, then the answer would have been no. There would have been no need to address it. Not only did she address it, now they're trying to deny what she said, and they've gone into overdrive worldwide to deny.
Now, ask yourself, Rick Walker, a question, and people at home, why would all of these major pharmaceutical companies have major locations in a second world Eastern European country? I wonder why.
Well, you know, these places, if you were going to do that kind of research, if you're going to be doing research that is, say, difficult or even illegal to do at home,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even illegal internationally, it would be a whole lot easier to do it in another country where you have a firm grip on the controls of the people and the laws, and you don't have to deal with a pesky constitution that is designed to keep the government in check. Instead, do it in a country where the government has total authoritarian control. and you control the government, and do it where you can more easily deny things. Do it in a country where you can get test subjects more easily, where the laws don't locally don't prohibit you from doing the things you want to do. But in this case, well, in any case, working on biological weapons is a violation of international law. So I think the United States does have some explaining to do, and I'm ashamed to be saying these things. I think a thorough, complete, transparent explanation is in order. And the other major concern is what Victoria Newland brought up, which is that they are worried that the research materials and the materials, the biological materials, the physical biological materials, may fall into Russian hands. And this raises a lot of pretty serious questions. Among them, why, if the United States has invested in these labs and seems to be in control, perhaps, of these labs, why didn't they secure them when they knew the Russians were coming? Joe Biden has stood up for weeks telling us all that the Russians are going to attack. The Russians are coming. The Russians are coming. And they did nothing to secure these labs, and they've known they were there. No, instead, what are we getting now? They admitted on one hand that these places are there, these biolabs that were supposed to be fictitious rather, and now we find out that they're real. They are indeed there. And you remember it was actually over a week and a half ago, Brendan, I first brought this up. I asked AJ when he was on, he's a doctor, and he was on, and I asked him what his views were and if he thought there was any merit in these stories about the biolabs, and he thought that there could be. But of course, we were not able to confirm that, but Victoria Newland confirmed it for the world. And now they're lying again. Obviously, they're just straight up lying. Now they're telling us, no, don't believe what we told you. Don't believe what you see. Don't believe what you hear. Don't believe the other side. Just believe us now after we already told you that they exist when we tell you that they don't. Because we didn't do that. And those biolabs, they're not ours. We have nothing to do with them. And it's just, we're just not engaged in that kind of activity. Oh, really? Really?
Nothing to see here, people. Just go home. Nothing to see.
Yes.
Sweep it under the rug. Of course. That's why for majority of everything coming out of Ukraine for the time being, I am just not believing it. And I've said it before, as soon as you see a news story that is designed to get your emotional pull and get you to emotionally invest in, just steer clear of it, because chances are it is not going to serve a very good purpose. And you can see that especially if you look at all the Ukraine tweets that they make. Like, it's absolutely absurd. And war is ugly. Like, this is the ugliest thing known to mankind, and people are getting hurt. And my heart goes out to them, absolutely. But this is because the Ukrainian people's government never had their best interest at heart. And what they did have is the United States government's best interest at heart. And this is why it is the way it is.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can queue up another clip here of the U.S. dismissing this again. I know there was a clip of John Kirby today, and I think Jen Psaki also addressed it. Let me let me get you these clips.
Yeah, she definitely did. Jen Psaki did touch on it. The day after it was announced, she basically is like, "This is fake news," and
let me just make sure I get the best feed for you. One moment. Okay, we'll play it from here. And I don't know, man. Like every day, they seem to dig themselves a deeper hole. Like, come on. The people are smarter than you think.
Accusations are absurd. They're laughable. And, in the words of my Irish Catholic grandfather, a bunch of malarkey. There's nothing to it. It's classic Russian propaganda. And I wouldn't, if I were you, I wouldn't give it, a drop of ink worth paying attention to.
Yeah, but can you explain to us has there been any relationship between the?
We are not developing biological or chemical weapons inside Ukraine. It's not happening.
They have a large biological and chemical weapons program. So it's a pattern, but they also have the capacity. Well, I'm not going to get into specific intelligence. We look at all of those factors. And we also know, and one of the main issue that prompted my Twitter thread yesterday was that Russia has a history also of inventing outright lies like this, which is the suggestion that the United States has a chemical and biological weapons program, or Ukraine does, that they're operating. Russia is the country that has a chemical and biological weapons program. So the objective was to make clear the inaccuracy of the information, the misinformation they're trying to put out, and make clear to the world that they not only have the capacity, they have a history of using chemical and biological weapons, and that in this moment we should have our eyes open for that possibility.
He would, if I were you, I wouldn't give that one drop of ink. Oh,
and you see
okay.
that?
Well, thank you for directing the media. How should a reporter interpret that?
Well, I think any reporter who tries to question it after that type of attitude is presented, I think that the reporter would probably be ostracized and name called by government officials and be called conspiracy theorist, etc. This is not going to age well. I have a vision of these clips in the future and how bad they will look in a few years' time. Like, it is not going to age well, especially if it comes out in the way I think it's going to come out. I think this is going to be exposed in one way or another, especially if Russia gets their hands on these facilities, and they will. You bet your bottom they'll expose it all, and they'll put it all out. Everybody's going to see.
This is really, really, really serious.
It's
very
serious. It's
pretty clear that when that guy stands up and says, "We're not doing it. It's not true."
My Irish granddaddy used to say, "A bunch of malarkey."
It's all malarkey. Right. Okay. Why do I feel like this is going to spiral way out of control for them? Why do I feel like it's even worse than we might have imagined? Why do I feel like this is going to have tentacles, ties that go into things that, how shall I put this, have affected us for, say, like the past 2 years?
Well, I think that people are going to be fired over this. So that Newland, her time is limited here. She's going to be ousted probably. This is going to be career ending for her, as well as that Pentagon guy. This is not going to end well for any of them. This is, like I said, those clips are going to age very badly, and it's not going to take a lot of time for it to do that.
I will disagree with you on this. I don't think this is going to cost Victoria Newland her career. She has been around. She's been a swamp creature for decades. And I think that even Marco Rubio, who asked the question, was really just playing the game. That question was pre-scripted. His follow-up question was pre-scripted. that question was asked because they were trying to minimize the damage that had been inflicted on the U.S. because of the revelations that these labs are there. And the chatter about it just would not die down, and it kept spreading and spreading and spreading. That's why I was talking about it. I at least asked about it. I asked AJ, I said, what do you think? Is there any merit to this? And I thought it was an important question, but we just didn't really have the answers. We were searching and looking, and a lot of others were as well. And then articles came up from the past that showed that the U.S. has been in there, and it's pretty clear that it's not just the United States. It's NATO, it's the EU, and I expect Canada. Even, and the reason this is of such an extreme interest right now as well is that after 2 years of battling a virus that we were originally told came from a pangolin or a bat.
A bat that kissed a pangolin.
Right. Only to really then find out and confirm that the conspiracy theory that it came from the Wuhan lab was true. It wasn't a conspiracy at all. But remember when it all first started? If you said that it came from that lab, you were a nutbar and you were a conspiracy theorist and you weren't allowed to talk about it. Well, the pattern keeps playing over and over again, doesn't it? This is a really serious thing. And that lab might have been in China, but here's the really uncomfortable thing for all of us here living in Canada and the United States as citizens of these two, well, I think they are great countries, but we have crappy governments right now. The uncomfortable thing is we had money in there. We invested in those labs. We were helping to fund everything that was going on in the Wuhan lab. And some of the work that was done in advance, or maybe even in conjunction with what was going on in Wuhan, was done in Canada at a university in Western Canada, from all the data that we've seen, or not data, but documents and information. We saw, I believe it was two Chinese nationals who were working at the university expelled from the country, and the government is refusing to release information about why. And these things all relate back to what was going on at this lab that has been tied directly to this worldwide pandemic. Now we're finding out that these labs in Ukraine that weren't supposed to exist actually do exist. Mm-hmm. And now they're in overdrive on the propaganda machine, trying to tell us all to not believe what we were just told and what was just confirmed. But I think that Victoria Nuland was there, and I think it was her job to try to deflect this. And that's why the follow-up question from Rubio was designed to lay the blame at the feet of the Russians, but it just didn't work. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All it did was, I think it was a tactical public relations propaganda error.
Yeah,
it was massive on their
part. Yeah,
I think they were trying to minimize the damage. So yeah.
Well, there's another story here. I think that because we do have our guests coming on at 7 p.m. from the Freedom Convoy, the Peoples Convoy in the United States. So we're gonna try and jam pack the next few minutes here. I wanted your thoughts on this. So, Twitter removes Russian embassy tweet on Mariupol bombing. So, for those of you who haven't heard, in Mariupol, Ukraine, there had been a maternity hospital that has been supposedly bombed. Twitter has removed a post from the Russian embassy in London about a Mariupol hospital bombing, which claimed that the facility was no longer operational and that images of the attack had been faked, following criticism from Downing Street. Number 10, Note 10 accused the embassy of posting disinformation on Twitter after it posted pictures of the bombing emblazoned with the label fake A series of follow-up tweets, including a claim that the victim of the bombing was played by a beauty blogger, have also been removed after Twitter said they violated Twitter's rules. So, I don't doubt that this place has been bombed, and it certainly is a tragedy, but I wanted to kind of highlight a common trend that we're seeing out of Ukraine, which is not as easy as we would like it to be. There's some nuance with this situation. I came across this tweet shortly after reading about this story, and it kind of explains my point here. If you could bring the tweet up, Rick. There we go.
Yep, there you go.
It says, Dean O'Brien, the next time you hear about Russian forces targeting schools, hospitals, etc., please remember that the fortified headquarters of the neo-Nazi Azov Battalion are currently located in the basement of school number 15 in Mariupol. And here's the video.
Можешь скинуть по этому блютузу? Вачик, передай привет моим подписчикам. Подписчики, привет. Ну и пару комментариев. Я тут танк в рот ебал. Красава. Да ну.
Все нормально. Русский корабль, иди нахуй, блядь.
Можешь скинуть?
So we have a government that's essentially doing tactics here where they are purposely putting military installations inside of schools. Now, if they're purposely putting military installations inside of schools, would it therefore be a far-fetched theory or idea to indicate that they would also be using hospitals for the same such things? It's an interesting question. And
so the question is, what are they?
If the government of Ukraine is using hospitals or using schools as a military installation, would it be a far-fetched thought to believe that the Ukraine government is using hospitals as military installations?
Probably not.
So this is where you get the propaganda, and in war, truth is the first thing to go in the garbage. And now we have big tech, every Western civilization, every big tech organization, every big company in the West and United States basically going after Russia and saying they're the bad guys. This is weird. This is so weird and messed up.
Yeah, Ristic One actually is quite right. He mentions that the coup happened in 2014. Yankovic was pushed out with U.S. help. Yes. And pro-NATO billionaire Poroshenko came into power until 2019, and Zelensky was elected in 2019. Thank you for that. And you watched that documentary. You wanted to talk about that. I haven't seen it yet, but you wanted to just let people know about that. You want to just mention it now briefly, and we can come back to more in your conversation.
Yeah, I think so. So Ukraine on Fire, which, what's his name? Oliver Stone, director Oliver Stone, had a big hand to play in the creation of Ukraine on Fire. And they talk heavily about kind of the buildup before the war. The documentary was produced before the war even happened, and so it doesn't go in with the same kind of bias as to looking to talk about the war. But if you want an understanding of the history of Ukraine, and you want an understanding of the government involvement in the coups that have taken place, I highly suggest that you take a look at it. Now, there's a lot of news articles out there saying that it has been banned from YouTube. That is not true. It has been flagged on YouTube. They have very concerning images of Ukrainian involvement in the Holocaust. And so there's some very dark imagery that you're going to see in the documentary. If you are weak-stomached, I don't recommend you watch it if that's the case. But I could certainly see why YouTube would flag it and tell you that there's some pretty deep images on there. And
Are you sure it hasn't been banned? Because I can't find it. I see a trailer for it, but I haven't been able to find the actual video. And I've seen Gab has it, so you can watch it there. I believe it's on Rumble.
I watched it last night, so let me just go to my library history and I can pull it up.
It'll be, useful for people to know if it has been actually banned off YouTube. Like I punch it in, you would think it would be the first thing to pop up in the search result, right? But I don't see it when I search for it on YouTube.
If you could.
You got it?
Yeah. So it's on the channel Global Tree Pictures. And this is what comes up when you begin to watch it. The following content has been identified by YouTube community as inappropriate or offensive for some audiences.
So what did you type into the search bar to bring that up?
Last night it was just Ukraine on fire.
So it's remembering your search and giving it back to you. Yeah, see, when I type that in, I don't get it. YouTube likes you more than they like me, I guess.
Yeah, that is weird. I mean, I watched it last night. Oh, here it is. Global Tree Productions. It is a number of items down. This documentary is over 10 months old at this point. Like, it's kind of prophetic how it became front and center stage of this current event that we have now. And Oliver Stone goes to great lengths to talk to the former president of Ukraine and talk to Vladimir Putin as well. And the type of stuff that is in there it's just absolutely mind-blowing. Like, I highly recommend it. Perhaps me and Rick Walker will rewatch it and compare notes and give you kind of like a movie review on it, because I will tell everybody, I watch a lot of documentaries. That was the best documentary I've seen in probably a couple of years. Hands down.
And so was this is this an Oliver Stone film, or was it produced by, I thought it was his son, Sean Stone, that produced it or directed it or whatever? Or maybe I'm wrong. Because I haven't seen it. I'm not really that familiar with it. I've only just been hearing about it, and I'll probably watch it tonight.
I think Oliver Stone is the executive producer and presenter. But there's a lot of big names. There's a lot of names that were involved in it.
Speaking of big names, I understand Sean Penn is trying to push to get those Polish jets still sent in to Ukraine.
Oh, God. You know, what a self-serving hypocrite that is. If you, like, he did not go there to tell people what the news is. He went over there to get people emotionally invested in this whole thing. And it's absolutely atrocious, really, I have to say.
Yeah, and Miss Jensky says, Rick Walker Newland was involved in the Iraq War. Again, that's true. Victoria Newland has a long history of being involved in, as an architect in a lot of these wars. And we all know what happened in Iraq. They lied, and told us that there were weapons of mass destruction in there, and we had to go in. I remember when Bush Sr. went into Kuwait, and then they stopped at the Iraq border. They didn't go in. And at the time, it seemed wise not to. But I was younger and more naive at the time. And Now I realize that even that was the right decision not to go into Iraq at that time, but later they couldn't resist. And they made up all those stories about the weapons of mass destruction. They were never ever found because they never ever existed. But Victoria Nuland was one of the architects of that. So why would we just, we all need to be asking these questions. We need to be questioning everything. The same people that took us into Iraq and war and these senseless wars in other countries are at it again right now. It's the same thing all over again. Only I think this time they're even using more sophisticated, psychological techniques on people to get people to manufacture consent for this war. And we need to be questioning all of this. It's the same people that led us down the garden path before. A lot of them. And why would we just take them at their word now? Out of blind patriotism? If you're a true patriot and you love your country, I think you need to ask questions to make sure that when your government is doing things on your behalf, on our behalf, that they're doing the right things. I don't want my government going into countries and declaring war or taking actions that result in people dying unless there's real justification for it. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of things that have me very, very, very concerned and questioning what the true motives are behind all of this. And I'm wondering, are we really on the right side of this thing? I'm not sure if there is a right side. I guess that's sort of the problem, isn't it? There doesn't seem to be a right side to any of this. Because I don't think the Russians are on the right side. I don't think that the West is on the right side. But the one thing I can understand is that the Russians don't want weapons on their, especially nuclear weapons or missiles of any kind, on their front doorstep. I get that. They don't want Ukraine to be a NATO country. They don't want Ukraine to be controlled by the West because it's an existential threat to their sovereignty, to their country. I get it. I get that. But beyond that, nothing seems to make any damn sense.
And our leaders aren't even admitting that. They say the unjustified, unprovoked attack, the unjustified, unprovoked illegal attack, unjustified, illegal, unprovoked attack. It's like the propaganda is thick.
That's a good question, Highway Frog. How many biolabs does Canada have? I don't know. I think these are questions that need to be asked as well. What is Canada's involvement? What has Canada known? How involved are they? Are we involved with those labs in Ukraine? What was our involvement in Wuhan? How deep did all of that go? How much money was sent? What have we done to secure these facilities and make sure that nothing gets out? What really happened with those people that were expelled from Western Canada at the university, where research was going on that was related to what was going on in Wuhan? Why can't we know more about that? I think the people deserve to know. We need to know. If our government's up to something, I think the people deserve to know. It's our money. They work for us. It's not the other way around.
So there's one last thing we're going to talk about here before our guest comes on. And this is the first kind of mainstream media acknowledgement that there is neo-Nazis in Ukraine. So this one here is from NATO, but CTV Vancouver also got pinged for sharing this as well. So NATO shares images of Ukrainian soldier wearing Nazi insignia, deletes it later. On Tuesday, on the occasion of International Women's Day, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, tweeted a picture of a Ukrainian woman soldier with a Nazi symbol on the uniform and said the Ukrainian women were a symbol of strength for their nation. NATO later deleted the tweet, realizing the post included a picture of a woman soldier wearing the Black Sun symbol. All women must live free and equal. This International Women's Day, we think of the remarkable women of Ukraine. Their strength, bravery, and resilience are symbolic of the spirit of their nation. The tweet by the official NATO account read, and so there's the picture of the lady with the black sun symbol. In the tweet that was later deleted, NATO had shared 4 pictures of Ukrainian women to celebrate International Women's Day. One of the pictures was that of a woman soldier wearing the black sun symbol on her uniform. According to the reports, the black sun symbol is associated with Nazism and is popular with neo-Nazis in Ukraine. The symbol is composed of 2 concentric circles and rays that start from the smaller circle to the larger one. So there you have it. This is, I think, going to be the most acknowledgement of neo-Nazis that we're going to see out of Ukraine. I don't think that.
So you said that CTV, one of the local affiliates, shared this and got pinged or dinged or penalized for it on social media?
Yeah, they retracted it. I could actually show you a screenshot somebody I know took.
Well, this is just, more of what people are not aware of in here in North America, in Canada and the US, where we've been insulated for a long time. People don't understand that there are actual real Nazi groups active and part of the Ukraine military and the Ukraine government.
There's Rick Walker's former boss. CTV News Vancouver aired a story Tuesday that included images of 2 female Ukrainian soldiers who were wearing an offensive symbol on their uniform, which was regrettably not recognized before being broadcast. The image has been removed from our coverage.
Okay, so
It's
why?
that same picture of the 2 women, and they have the picture of the black sun.
Why? Why was it removed? It was offensive to some, sure, because it's a Nazi symbol, right? But
Yeah.
why remove it?
They don't mention.
Yeah,
Because
they don't
want
why.
you to know. They don't want you to know that.
Because they don't want you to know that they're Nazis. They don't want you to know.
That would smear their own propaganda campaign.
That's right, and they didn't mention that it was a Nazi symbol in this statement. It's not even really a retraction.
Also,
which was regrettably not recognized before being broadcast.
Sorry.
You know why they didn't recognize it? Because they're ignorant and they don't know. Because even the reporters here, I guarantee you that the vast majority of the reporters, especially at the regional and local levels, don't know what they're talking about. They are just regurgitating information. They're taking wire service stories and they rewrite them and localize them. I'll tell you how it works in these newsrooms is they get up in the morning, they go into these editorial meetings, and they go through the newspapers. They just look through the paper to see what stories they're going to do that day. They might have some news releases saying that there's a news conference here, or a politician is going to make an appearance there, and that will be the fresh news for the day. But really, they just go through the newspapers and give you a rehash of what's on the front page for 6 p.m. that night. And if there's some new development, they might include that. And when they get these stories, the information flows from the top down, and they just repeat what has already been published. And for reference and research, they just look at these stories that come in from the wire services like Associated Press or Reuters or the National Post or whatever the major newspaper might be. And when these images come across on social media, or they're fed down the line, some of these local affiliates will pick them up, or they'll start circulating on social media. And these reporters, most of them are not properly educated these days. They don't really know, and they They post these things, and it's not just the reporters. It includes the news management at these stations. They're ignorant. They don't know. So they didn't know what that symbol was because they're ignorant. And they don't. So if you said to these news people in these newsrooms, and I know because I used to work there are actual Nazis in Ukraine, you know. Oh, come on. No, you know, it's not like those truckers. Those truckers are the Nazis. They're all a bunch of rednecks. They ain't got no teeth. They all play banjos. Near. That's a Nazi. And they all go NASCAR racing on weekends and drink a lot of beer. For them, that's a Nazi. These young reporters don't even know what a Nazi is. They wouldn't recognize Nazism even now when it's smack dab in front of their nose. That's why, and they have to run a retraction. It's not even a retraction. It's just they deleted it because they were like, oh, we got phone calls from some people and they got educated a little bit from the phone calls from people who were calling to complain to tell them that they were running pictures of Nazis, and it was undermining their narrative, which was that Ukraine is pure, Russia is evil, and we have to defend democracy in Ukraine. When they run a picture like that with a Ukrainian soldier displaying a Nazi symbol right on her uniform, and they thought they were doing a good thing because they thought they would run an image of a female soldier on International Women's Day to promote their agenda and virtue signal. But when they did that, it all falls apart.
I could see CTV making a similar post like this about you. Rick Walker does not reflect the views of CTV. All footage constructed by Rick Walker has been removed from the database.
I could tell you some stories, and stick around for the next couple of years, and I will. My God.
Okay, so before we wrap this story up, I think the more important question we have to ask ourselves is, why is it that NATO, who's one of their sole dispositions and the sole reasons for their existence is to fight Russia, what are they doing propping up Ukraine so heavily? In fact, I would wager it's not in my interest or your interest or even their interest to be creating propaganda about the war in Ukraine.
So what's the question? Why would
NATO be making heavy propaganda about Ukraine? It's dangerous. Very dangerous.
Well, I think NATO has its own agenda.
Of course they do.
And as I pointed out the other night, if the main issue is that Ukraine had been asking to become a NATO country and Russia says no, like Putin says he wants Ukraine to be a neutral country, right? That's what the issue is. If Ukraine remains neutral, the war ends immediately. The Russians go home and the war stops. Ukraine remains an independent, democratic state. They get to continue to have elections, and the people there can do whatever they want. They just can't join NATO or the European Union, and they can't be heavily militarized, so they can't be a military threat to Russia. But both sides agree not to go in there and control the country. It has to remain neutral ground. What's the downside for anyone? There's no downside for Russia. That's what they want. There's no downside for NATO or the European Union or the United States. I don't see a downside. So if the U.S. and NATO and Canada and the other European Union countries, but NATO countries, if they won't agree, if they continue to take a hard line on this, the question is why? The answer is, again, something that makes people here at home. It should make us all feel very uncomfortable. If they won't agree to it being a neutral country, then what is their agenda? By saying, yes, it can be neutral, it achieves what they said they want, which is that they want to preserve democracy there and preserve the sovereignty of Ukraine. That it does exactly that. It's still, Ukraine remains sovereign. It's not under the control of the West. It's not under the control of the Russians. They get to be their own country. It's a country that gets to determine its own destiny. The people there can determine their own destiny. They just have to be independent. So where's the downside? Well, the downside for NATO is they don't get Ukraine. The downside for NATO is they don't get to get closer to Russia. They don't get to continue to put pressure on Russia. They don't get to keep putting weapons closer and closer to the Russian border. That's the truth. That's the problem. They don't want to give it up. So they keep the narrative going that they're trying to preserve democracy, when in reality, it seems to me that Putin is the one who is being straight up about it. His fears are they're justifying his fears. They're confirming it, just like the biolabs. All you have to do is just really think about the scenario. And I'm sorry to say that. I don't want to say that, but it's just bloody true because it's just obvious. And with that being said, our guest has arrived. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I think we're excellent here. We can. Can you introduce yourself to the viewers?
I am Lee Schmidt. My wife is trying to also get on her phone. I don't know if she can get on with you guys also.
Sure she can. Yes. Yeah, if she just clicks that link, we'll put her right in.
She's on. She's showing she's in backstage. So.
Oh, if she's backstage, you should be able to click her in. Then.
I don't see her here yet at all.
They're not seeing you, Lise. You can click out and come back. Try to enter it again. So, hi, how are you guys? Where are you at?
Well, we're up here in Canada.
Southern Ontario.
Yes.
We wish you were down here helping us with what you guys started up there, you know.
Yes. Well, you guys are doing a great job. And we salute you for what you're doing, fighting for freedom. And we appreciate all of that. We've been watching, the streams come out of there. We've been talking to some people down at the Hagerstown Speedway, and as you make your way around that beltway, and boy, you've got an impressive crowd down there.
Yeah, we do. I'm happy with the turnout. There's been, we haven't had a convoy that showed up last night. There was one that showed up a couple nights ago that added quite a few more. Some trucks leave because they have to go to work. Financially in trouble. So there is a constant cycle of, I would say, 10, 15 trucks will leave, and you'll have another 20 show up later that afternoon. It keeps bouncing around.
Right. I guess the first thing we should talk about today is this morning we saw Senator Ted Cruz make an appearance down there and go for a ride along in that lead truck. Were you witness to that? Did you see that happen?
Yeah, actually, I was the second truck, and it was actually Mike, and then a security bus, and then me and Trucker G were side by side.
I see. Yeah, you broke up there a little bit. So where were you positioned in relation to the lead truck?
3 trucks back. And as soon as they went downtown to split off to go downtown, there was me and the second truck run side by side, 2 lanes wide all the way around the belt.
Wow. And I understand that the convoy is now so large that it actually wraps all the way around the beltway and sort of overlaps. And it's over 60 miles long. Is that accurate?
When we get spread out and we are single file, yes, it is 60 miles long. When we are double wide and close like to tail, we are 23 miles long, double lane. So it would be 46 miles single lane.
So how important was it to have Ted Cruz join the convoy today and have him, I guess, to some degree, add his voice to your cause and the movement down there?
It was good, but I don't want politicians to see Ted Cruz as, oh, we're all right wings over here. This is not a political affiliation. We are trying to figure out this has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with our freedoms and being Americans. We don't care what
yeah, Lee, you're breaking up just a little bit. Yeah, your signal is breaking up. It's very difficult to hear what you're saying. It's all sport. You're coming in and out.
Is that better?
It is at the moment. Yeah, it's just the signal, I think, more than anything. But we'll see if we can get through this.
We don't want people to go left or right cause. This is an American cause. I don't care your political affiliation. You want to ride in my truck and talk for a while? You're more than welcome. Anybody.
Right. And I guess the important thing is that you guys at least have some politicians now paying attention and listening to you, right?
Yes, we do. And that is the hardest thing to do because politicians bring media. Negative or positive, media is here.
Right. So what media have you seen show up since Ted Cruz arrived? Has there been very much or any national coverage, or is it still sort of local and regional?
We had NBC over the weekend. They had, but they were also local. OA is in with us. That's all I've seen here. Fox was here very first day we got here, but then they left.
So that in a way has been pretty frustrating, but I guess you have a lot of independent live streamers, independent journalists, programs like this one. And that has been, I think, pretty effective in helping you get your message out.
Yes, it has. And every one of us is streaming stuff live as many chances as we can.
Right. Do you think that your message is getting out? Does the public understand what you're there for, or has the media effort, which has been aimed at smearing you, has it distorted the message? Do you think people are getting it? Because it seems to me that people are beginning to understand and catch on and give you more support.
The support from people is phenomenal. The media cannot hide this. They think they are, but there's still overpasses with people every day on the side of the road. The message is getting out. People are awake. They know what's going on. The media can't stop it.
It's got to fill your heart with hope to see all those people on the overpasses and lining the sides of the highways. We saw it here in Canada, and as the convoy made its way to Washington, D.C., we saw thousands of people greeting you, and it was incredible, just like it was in Canada, and we're still seeing it even now. So how does that make you feel?
Full of patriotism in my country that I haven't felt in a long time. Pride, overwhelming, heartfelt. I've cried more in the last 15 days than I have in 40 years. It is phenomenal support.
Do you think the strategy is working? Because some people sort of expected you guys to go in and blockade something or cause big traffic jams, but that hasn't been the strategy. So far, it's been to, the strategy has been remain completely peaceful, do everything completely lawful, work with local law enforcement, just make your presence known and try to get the message out. Is it working?
It is working. There is some people that are antsy that want to do things that will hurt us. But right now, their intentions are listening. We'll try the slow method first. I guess, before we change it up.
And I guess they do have other strategies.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
You do have
Yes.
other strategies you can employ if you need to, and you could revert to those. But I guess they're sort of keeping all of that low key, not really revealing what else they might do at this point, because they're hoping this is going to be enough that it will result in more dialogue and negotiation of some kind, right?
Yes. The best thing we're telling everybody to do down here is call Congress. Tell Congress to bring this to the House floor to vote on it. The Senate did their part. Unless we get Congress to bring it to the floor and vote, nothing's going to change. So we need to keep having people call Congress.
So to be very clear, what exactly is it you want them to vote on? What is the request that you're putting in?
I want to give you the exact number. Pull up the request for what the number is that the Senate passed. I will give you the exact. Not. Well, yes. They need to end the state of emergencies on COVID Act that the Senate voted on. That gave the president powers to do everything they want to, and all state governments, so they don't have to follow the Constitution. That needs to be removed. That's all we want. You do that, we'll leave.
Okay. How many? So you've got what, about, I heard over 3,000 trucks there. Is that about right? Or at least 3,000 people at the Speedway?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's probably 3,000 total. There's not 3,000 trucks, but there's 3,000 total, I would say, pretty easy. If I was to guesstimate on trucks, I would put that number 400 to 600 right in that area.
I see. So what do the truckers need? What do you guys need right now? I guess people can donate. That's one thing that will help you.
Yes, they can donate to the peoplesconvoy.org. That is the only place that takes donations. If it's anything other than the peoplesconvoy.org, it's not us. We've got 5 semi-trailers full of food and supplies, so we're set for a long while. I mean, the outcome of food, and we've got a lot of Ottawa handbags that were also donated down here.
Ottawa handbags? Like, how do you mean?
Well, gas cans, fuel cans.
Oh.
Right. Yes.
I like how you did that. Very, very, very well stated.
Yeah, well, they are a fashion statement these days.
Yeah.
An accessory.
Our fuel is all being paid for by the donations. So when we go around the Beltway every other day, we go to a locally owned mom and pop truck stop rather than the mega chains down here. Everything we've done all the way across the country, we're doing with mom and pop truck stops. We don't want to get mega fleet style, it's Petros. Keeping everything, all the donations as far as fuel costs, going back to the local gas stations. And the support.
I guess that's important right now more than ever, because small and medium-sized businesses, especially independent mom and pop places, they're the ones that have suffered most among businesses during the pandemic. So I guess that's why you guys want to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
I
breaking
don't
up
know
there
if
still.
Lisa can get in. I can't get in. It's okay. Would you like to talk with her for a few minutes? I can. You're good. Got it. Oh, she says forget it. You're good.
Yeah. So, oh, we lost him. Yeah, we lost his feed. Hopefully he'll come back. There he is.
There. I know the service is really bad here. We just added a signal booster. But apparently, being down in the hollow that we are, power's still not getting out.
Yeah, it's a little sporadic, but we've got you. And I know that people want to hear from you. It's important what you have to say. So we're going to stick with this and make sure that we get your message out.
It might help if you turn the camera off, because then it'll require less signal just to
No,
carry the
I
audio.
think we're okay. Let's not mess with it, Brendan, because people want to see him. And
right.
it is video, and I think we're okay. If we need him to repeat something, we can get him to do that. But go ahead and ask your question.
The Congress is packed with 48 Democrats. What are the Democrats saying about the COVID emergencies, and are they more in favor with them now, or are they starting to pull away from them?
The Democrats and anybody that is against removing the exemption that they gave themselves are just staying that way because they enjoy the power grab that they've had for 2 years. That is all it is. They don't want to relinquish the power.
That seems to be the case everywhere here in Canada, at every level of government, from the federal to the provincial, state, local. They all these politicians and bureaucrats seem to have had a taste of power, and none of them seem to want to let it go.
Right.
How do we combat that?
We've got to get them to sign this, and we can start putting pressure on them. The idea is that there are groups starting up all over the country that are going to start rallying their states. They're going to surround their capitals. You start putting pressure on your state capitals, they're going to in turn start putting pressure on the feds.
Yeah, I did hear mention of that. I think it was 2 nights ago in the speeches at the end of the day, calling on people to organize convoys around the state capitals.
Yes.
Are you getting much response back? It seems like there would be a lot of organization that would need to go into that.
There's very little organization that has to be done there. We've done that before back in 2018. It takes, depending on your state, my home state of Wisconsin, 18 trucks is all it takes. You can surround the Capitol. It's not that hard. All the people that we come across the country that said they supported us, we warned them. I guess it would be a warning. We told them, we're going to need your help. Eventually, when we get there, we are going to need all the citizens that couldn't come out here to do something like this, to go back to their state capital. So since we've come through, a lot of people have been rallying other people saying, all right, they're going to need our help. What can we do? How can we get ready to do this?
Here in Canada, we saw the media and the politicians smear the truckers, lie, just plain straight up lie about what went on there. It was completely peaceful demonstration, and yet they said they were violent. We saw people hugging each other and waving Canadian flags and U.S. flags as well, honestly.
Yes.
Huge outpouring of patriotism, and yet they said that they were racists and Nazis. Are you afraid? And, after what happened on January 6th as well, are you afraid that you might be infiltrated? Are you guys looking for people who are maybe in there to just stir things up and cause problems?
That is the funny thing about truck drivers. We are a tight family when you're in something like this, just like the Canadians are. You mess with one of us, you mess with us all. We have had infiltrators come in. We can smell it. We can get them out really fast. One of us hollers, the rest come running. So we can keep that down to a minimum. What they did on January 6th, everybody at the Capitol, that crosses our mind. But what are you going to do? You're going to take my license? You're going to take my truck? Is this the only thing that a lot of us know how to do? There's other jobs we know how to do. I'm at the age in my life, I'm not afraid of the government. I'm afraid to go to jail. I don't think I would do well there, but I'm not afraid of the government. I've got nothing to lose. This is our freedom. We're standing up for our grandchildren. And that's the mentality of a lot of us drivers. This is for our children, our grandchildren. That's why we're here. That's why the Canadians did it.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's obviously about more than, I mean, what they did in Canada and the United States and other countries around the world. They really, with these COVID mandates, they really have stripped us of our freedoms. That's
Yes.
really what's at stake. It seems like the very future of the country is at stake, and you guys are on the front line of this battle. It is that grave, isn't it?
It is that grave. And I think the one thing that separates our country, in my opinion, I think from every other country that is doing this right now, is the Second Amendment that we have down here. That I don't think every other country has given up a lot of their Second Amendment rights. We have that down here, and I think our government is afraid of that to do anything like they did in Canada right at the moment, at least to us trying to remain peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
The truckers, you seem to be, I think they've underestimated your power, and
Yes.
they've just underestimated you, period. I mean, you guys understand logistics. You understand planning. You understand strategy. You seem so well suited for this task in particular. Do you think that the bureaucrats, the politicians, and I would say the enemies of the people have underestimated you?
Yes, they have. They've underestimated us greatly. They think that we're going to bow down and quit this in a few days. We got news for them. None of us are going anywhere. We can stay here as long as it takes.
Do you have anything, Brennan, you want to ask him?
Not at this particular moment. I'm just thinking about something here.
Okay. So what's the plan, like, say, for the next few days? Is it still to just continue to drive around the Beltway? Are there feelers going out? Are they trying to reach more politicians? What's the game plan?
Well, can I do a shameless plug for ourselves, and then I can explain a little bit more about what
Of course.
we're trying to do.
By all means.
We are videoing this live every day on our Facebook page at Trucking Across America with the Schmitz. And on there, we're asking everybody to call their Congress, call Senate, and tell them to bring everything to the floor and to a vote. And also, we put out where we're going the next day. See, now I can't tell you where we're going to do tomorrow until we have our meeting tonight at 8 o'clock. We don't want to give out that information too far ahead. We have a meeting at 8 o'clock tonight. It's a briefing basically on what they did today, and then be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., I could tell you exactly what we're going to do because that's when everybody finds out. I do know we are going to be here in Hagerstown for another week. They've worked out the details with the owner of this facility. So we will be here for another week.
Okay, so at Hagerstown for sure for at least another week. And
yes.
I'll make up a banner and put a graphic on here. What's the website, or how can they find you online?
They can,
down there.
On Facebook, it's Trucking Across America with the Schmitz. And Schmitz is spelled SCHMITT.
So it'd be ITTS across with the Schmitz.
I have it there. You just need to click a button.
Yeah, I'm just going to put the graphic up too, though. Just give me a sec while I type it up. There it is. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. That picture was taken when we were on Constitution Avenue for 23 days in May when President Trump was in office arguing broker transparency.
Okay. And can people donate to you directly?
No.
Just to the trucking convoy. What is it? The peoplesconvoy.org, right?
Peoplesconvoy.org. The donations are going there. No donations to me. I don't want no donations. It's not set up that way. And the money, like I said, is going to pay for all the fuel. When we made the loop the one day, the fuel bill that night when all the trucks came back was $50,000.
And right now, the fuel is a huge issue. The fuel cost, the prices are through the roof. They've hit record highs.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yep. Yes, it has.
What's the fuel prices you're seeing down there currently?
Right here where we get fuel, it's $5.44 a gallon. So what does that do? How did truckers even deal with that? Like, the fuel costs are so high. I just don't know how you guys are doing it.
Well, like I said, it's all donations right now.
Yeah.
But if we were having to go haul freight right now, we would have to pass the cost on to everybody. I can't afford to move my truck down the road for less than $4 a mile, because right now it would cost me $1.23 a mile just in fuel. Now you add all your other expenses. I'm not going to do this without making money. So if they keep going, we might not have to protest. Everybody will just shut their keys off, and 4 days this country will shut down. You know, and it's not from anything we've done. It's just the inflation.
Yeah. And it seems like the government response has been completely inadequate, to deal with this.
I think when you go to Washington, D.C. or Ottawa, I think when they get in there, they leave their brains at the door. It doesn't matter what country. The politicians are totally brain dead. You ask anybody in the public how to fix some of these problems, we could fix them pretty fast.
Yeah.
I could agree with that sentiment. So it looks like the White House or the Capitol building had requested something like 500 National Guardsmen. Have you seen any of that in Washington?
They have. They've lined up heavy equipment at all the off-ramps, garbage trucks, snow plows, extra buses. But that is if we go inside of the loop. We're staying on the 495 Beltway. It's if you go inside of that, that's where you're going to get stuck. We're not going inside the belt. None of us are going to go to jail.
I still find it strange that they're so afraid of you and afraid of the people. It's ridiculous.
This scares the government of our country more than anything. Like I said, every race, creed, color, sexual orientation, doesn't matter. If we all come together for the common cause, that terrifies any government.
It speaks volumes. They if they were doing the right thing, if they were doing their jobs properly, they would have nothing to fear from the people. And not that they do now, I don't think, but they're obviously not doing their jobs right.
Right. They've just gotten out of control. And now, after this, we've got to be able to hold these politicians accountable. There's things that they've done since the last 2 years that are just, they should be tried for treason.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of truckers from the convoy phone up here over the last, couple of weeks, some of them crying because not so much because of their personal situation, but because of what they see happening to the country. And I think Canada has pretty much been lost, but I think that the United States is sort of the last hope for us. Are you fighting not just for the United States? Would you agree that you're fighting really for Canada and maybe the whole world?
I do feel we are fighting for the whole world, because the governments in every other country has managed to squash this so bad, so fast. But I think it's because America is so big. They can't squash it like they can everywhere else.
Yeah. So what happens tonight now? Like every night you guys are sort of having these speeches and rallies. Is that keeping spirits up there?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And we've had to go around and talk to a few drivers, kind of like just give it time, relax a little bit. Some guys are excited. They're at their wits' end. So you've got to go in and calm them down, tell them we need to have patience, give it time, just to remind them that we don't want to do anything that's going to destroy this or disrupt this or paint it in a bad light. So, yeah, we have the rallies, speak. Everybody gets out. We actually were eating when you guys started your show. That's why it took us so long to get back. We were waiting in chow line. They made tacos tonight and soup. So everybody come back to eat, and now we're just going to sit around, have a few cocktails, talk some stories.
Yeah. It seems like some of the attention has been pulled away from you because of this conflict in Ukraine. But it also seems like some of that is even tied in with what you guys are doing, just because of the fuel prices and the way it's affecting inflation and prices overall. And when you guys do start to roll and haul freight again, you're going to have to deal with all of these issues like inflation. It just seems all so intertwined and the world's upside down. I don't know. My hat goes off to you guys. And I would think that you're probably finding new family and camaraderie and common purpose and making a lot of new friends down there.
Yes. And people, right now, there's a family walking in front of my truck on the other side. It's a mother and father and 2 children. They're walking out, handing out homemade bags with supplies in it. They got handwritten notes from all these children. This happens every night. I'll wake up in the morning and there's 2 goodie bags at my door. You know, the outpouring from everybody that just wants to come out here when everybody's kind of low key and just leave it. They don't want any recognition or nothing, but it's their support.
Is that coming from DC locals? Is that coming from DC locals usually, or?
We've had people come from all over. Yesterday there was a family that drove up here from West Virginia that handed out all handmade bags with little notes in them from their kids. Earlier today it was from DC. When we first got back, there was a family running through handing stuff. They're from everywhere.
In Canada, we saw the police turned into sort of a paramilitary squad and in the end go in and use violence to remove the people who had been, previously dancing in the streets and hugging each other and singing the national anthem. To me, it was pretty disgusting what happened. And I guess you guys are really trying to avoid that and just avoid having anybody arrested, right?
We are very much so trying to avoid that. But when I watched that, I want to ask you, because I'm not up there and I only saw it, the live streams. Rumor has it that they flew in UN troops to your country. Is that true? Is that not true?
It's not verifiable.
We can't verify that. We do know that there were officers there or whatever they were wearing uniforms that some people had never really seen before. They did not have names or insignias on their uniforms, so they could not really be identified at all and held accountable for their actions in that way afterwards. So that's a big concern. There was a lot of speculation, but there's also it's just hard to know.
Yeah.
Certainly there were cops brought in from outside the area, from all over Ontario, parts of Quebec for sure. And whatever they did and whoever they brought in there, they were violent and they were goons.
See, and that's the one thing we had down here. I don't know how it was with the convoy coming across, but every night I stopped and talked to an officer. When we parked at night, I was talking to the police. They give us so much support, and I had them say, I hope something finally happens. I hope you can make a change. We are with you. We're backing you. We had National Guard show up in some states. Air National Guard did flyovers when we come across the western states. Every fire department, every law enforcement officer cheering us on, waving flags. So I think it's just the politicians in D.C., the swamp, that are so out of touch that everybody else in this country is standing behind us. Every officer, law enforcement. So I think it would be really hard for law enforcement to turn on us. Our sheriffs, our county sheriffs down here, I don't know how it is in Canada, but our county sheriffs are voted in by the people.
Mm-hmm.
They answer to the people. The county sheriffs know that. The county sheriffs are ones supporting us and passing it on. they have our back. They have to look us in the face when this is over if they do something wrong. And that's why I think our law enforcement is so much behind us here, because they know the difference between the law enforcement and the swamp in D.C.
Well, the situation... Sorry, go ahead, Brendan.
You touched on something very pivotal there, because that same sort of sentiment occurred in Canada in the beginning,
yes.
where the police, even in some instances, provided escorts for convoys from the west going into
yes.
Ottawa. So that could all turn around when the government puts too much pressure on them in the long run. So yeah, I'd be weary that, but at least you do have the sheriff's kind of system where they are elected and they do answer to the people.
Yes.
You do have that benefit to your side. We don't have that here.
And we've had county sheriffs even circling along the interstate when we're in the loop. There's county sheriff squad cars. So I don't know how it works in D.C., but I do know county sheriffs are pretty high in the pecking order when there's an issue. They can override state in certain instances. I do not know how it would be in D.C., though.
Well, I hope that things remain peaceful there, and I hope the cops don't take the kind of actions that they did in Canada, because I'll tell you, what they did in Canada has severely damaged the police reputation and the relationship the police have with the public here, to a point where I don't know if it will be repaired in my lifetime.
That's pretty bad. We watched that down here, and I thought, as things were happening out in Coots, I loved watching the farmers come in. I thought, it's over. That country is going to win because you got the crew blockade, they're getting protected by the police, and now you've got the farmers. Enough. This is awesome. It's like, oh man, if they didn't get the farmers over there, and they tried, I mean, we felt so bad for what was going on up there. It's like you wanted to just get in your vehicle and run up and help you.
Yeah. Well, you know, even there, you know, in Coots, there were a lot of fabrications, a lot of lies, half-truths, slanted narratives, propaganda, and then we even saw the cops vandalize heavy equipment and trucks.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Terrible. I never thought I'd see anything like that in Canada.
And we had a joke down here for the longest time for one of our comedians, Robin Williams. Canada is like the loft over top of a bar, meaning the bar is the United States, and you guys are pretty laid back. And when things get pretty wild up there, we should really be paying attention.
You should. You absolutely should. And, you know, things have gotten so bad up here that I'll just tell you, we're looking to you guys with hope, because the Canada generally follows what goes on in your country. And if you guys are successful, it will absolutely have an impact up here. And I think, I mean, I've seen Canadians down there. Are there many Canadians among you?
There's a few. There is a few. We did have one of our Canadian friends that was a truck driver that was in Ottawa in one of the last trucks that was getting ready to be towed away. And we talk to her every day. There's a few Canadians down here that'll join up. So it's support from everybody.
How do you guys, you know, how are you, it's got to be costing you a fortune on an individual basis to be sitting there without working.
I am lucky enough to have my equipment paid for. So the only expenses I would have for this on the road is fuel. My fuel is being covered. My food is being covered. I have enough money set aside to pay my payments and everything I need for my house. I'm fortunate enough I could sit here as long as it takes. Some can, some can't. Everybody's situation is different. That's why we're telling drivers, don't lose your house, don't lose your business. If you need to leave, go make some money. Nobody's going to look down on you. Call us. Let us know, in a week if you want to come back. Ask where we are at. We'll welcome you back.
Right.
I have to ask, there's been no comment from President Joe Biden at this point. What do you think it's going to take for him to make any statements about this?
Trip to Delaware, maybe? I don't know. Maybe he's still in his basement napping. He doesn't want to acknowledge us, because if he acknowledges us, then the whole media has to. And right now, he doesn't want to do that. They can keep saying, oh, you're not here, you're not here. Ted Cruz doing a press conference today really helped that way. So we'll see.
Yeah. Was there much media at the news conference that he held today? And did he do that after after his trip around the Beltway?
They cut off from us as we were on 495. No, we were just outside of 495 and they cut off. But yes, they had a lot of media there. It was packed. And one of the drivers that Senator Cruz was in his truck told a story about the American flag on his trailer that a family had wanted him to take out here that had been folded for the last 70 years from World War II veteran that come back in his casket. So when Mike told his story, Senator Cruz says, is there any more questions out of the press? The press shut up. They didn't have no more questions. Everything was answered. It was done. Everybody kind of laughed. They said they've never heard the press just stand there dumbfounded with no answer.
Yeah. This is one of the most patriotic things I've ever seen. Man, I just I just have to tell you that it was the same thing in Canada. In Canada, people don't generally display their patriotism these days.
But you're proud of your country.
Yeah, but it was a long overdue outpouring of patriotism that we saw here, and we're seeing it again down there. And again, that does fill my heart with hope, and because I love the United States. I mean, I love your country. I love going down there. I can't right now because I'm not vaccinated, and I can't get over the border. Otherwise, I'd be down there with you right now to cover this thing. But boy, I'll tell you, it's inspirational, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Thank you very much. And I do love Canada. I have run Canada quite a bit until all of this stuff happened, but not Eastern Canada. I'm more Alberta, Saskatchewan, British Columbia, and then Northwest Territories. You get east, I don't speak French, so I can't go over there in Quebec.
Yeah, well, I'm not very good with my French either, I have to admit. Not good at all.
I'm not that way either. I mean, second that on the United States, and I think it's been far too long before since we've seen statements like "United We Stand," which was quite common after 9/11, where Canada and the United States were brothers once again, and we got to stay that way.
Yes, I agree.
In the long term, there isn't very much difference between Canada and the United States, except you guys have a much better constitution.
Yeah, but you guys didn't get your constitution until when, 1980 something?
Yeah, that was 1984, I think, was the year, I think.
So you're basically a young country away from a tyrannical government of England.
Yes, yep. It's very true. Just checking the comments, lots of people commenting. I'm just trying to get caught up here, see if anybody's got anything they want to ask you before we sign off with you, Lee. Is there anything else that you would like to focus on or think that we might have been missing?
I just can't emphasize enough that every one of us here, appreciate all the help, support that we're getting, whether it's a wave, a flag, a high, notes, anything. prayers. That keeps every one of us going. And it's just overwhelming. We're going to be here as long as it takes. There's a lot of us that said we will stay until we get it done, no matter what it takes. Like I've said earlier, I've got nothing to lose. You can't destroy me. My business is paid for. I'm set. I'm okay. You can't hurt me by doing anything to me, and that's the sentiment of a lot of us, because this is not about us, it's about our grandchildren.
So the Speedway is obviously a good place for you guys to be staging right now, and you said you're there for at least another week. At some point, if you have to leave there, I would think the organizers must have another plan for another place to go.
Yes. One of the places they did find in Virginia was really close to DC. We were going to go there, but then we found out that they required all of their groundskeepers and employees to be vaccinated. Oh. We decided, no, we're not going to go there.
Yeah. Strange times, man. Very strange times. I don't get it. In a free country, I just don't understand how they can mandate things like that. It just defies logic, and it's seems like a complete violation of your constitutional rights to me.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Freedom isn't free. You know, and our Constitution says when a government gets out of control, it is not only our right, it is our duty to put things back in check. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, Lee, with that, you've been on here with us quite a while, and I appreciate all your time. Maybe we can check back in with you from time to time as this thing unfolds over the next number of days, and hopefully not weeks. Hopefully the politicians, find a little bit of common sense and start to do some of the right things and talk to you guys, and you make some progress down there. But I really appreciate the time you've spent with us tonight. And,
yes, sir. Anytime. And if you want to get a hold of us, anybody wants to get a hold of us, go to our Facebook page, send a message. My wife is up all hours of the night replying to things. We'll pretty much answer anybody's question about anything to do with anything. And we do live stream this every time we go to town. So, but I thank you for having me, and anytime you want us, just reach out to us.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And just before you go, one more time, maybe you can remind people again how they can support the convoy, where they can go and what they can do.
You can go and make your donations at the peoplesconvoy.org. Again, it's the peoplesconvoy.org. If it is not the peoplesconvoy.org, it is not us.
Got it. Okay. Thank you again, Lee. We will be in touch with you again. Greatly appreciate you taking the time tonight to keep everything clear and factual. And that's what we're all about here. We want to make sure that we bring people as close to the truth as we can. And Godspeed to all of you down there. And please stay safe.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Have a great night. We'll be in touch. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
And there you have it. Lee Schmidt, trucker with the Peoples Convoy. They've been making their laps around the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., making their presence known. And today they did have Ted Cruz ride along with them as they continue to try to get the politicians to pay attention to what they're all about. And in fact, we have video of Ted Cruz down there this morning. So why don't I cue that up, and I'll just show that to you now. Let me just pull this down, and we'll pull the video of Ted Cruz up. And we'll just let this little bit of video. This was Ted Cruz this morning with the People's Convoy at Hagerstown Speedway. Might not be running. It's been queued up for a while. It might be frozen here. Hang on. I'll bring it down and re-queue this. We'll get it to run for you. Bear with me just a moment, folks. We'll show you Ted Cruz doing his thing. Here we go.
Thank you for watching. Yeah, we watch every morning, every night. And this is why we come to you to find it.
Awesome.
So thank you for doing this.
Are you guys from Maryland or?
We're from New Mexico.
New Mexico. And you guys been with the convoy?
Yep.
Since then?
We drove from Albuquerque to New Mexico.
You mind being on camera?
No.
Huh?
So we drove from Albuquerque to Arizona to go with the convoy. Supposed to be just a 4-hour trip.
Hang on just a moment.
And we
We'll
decided it was all
get it queued up to the
sport.
spot.
Had to go all the way, so we packed up our kids and we're here.
Just going to queue up this video here, Brendan, of Ted Cruz from this morning. We've got the right feed. I just have to get it to the right point.
No problem. So God bless the United States of America. That very much goes to show you the type of commitment that they have down there. That's absolutely amazing.
Here we go.
We will not comply.
I'm just going to let this roll, let you comment, Brendan, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
We will not comply. Law of exclusion is based on a movement must have forgot about the Constitution. We do not consent. We will not comply. And that's part of it. You can find me at funkyfathers.com. I've been writing music about this particular pharmaceutical tyranny and take over our country for a long while. And I appreciate every one of you doing the sit-in. This is the trucker sit-in around the Capitol. I appreciate it. I've been waiting for people to rise up against this tyranny. Way to go. I love you guys.
There you have it. They're discussing medical tyranny. As you know, that Joe Biden had implemented emergency orders stating that any company that employs 100 or more people make vaccination requirements.
Want to come out here to hear what the truckers have to say? Yeah. And to lend my voice. Yeah. All there standing out.
Yeah, while we're waiting here for a minute, let's throw a big shout out to the Speedway to continue hosting us today. So we go on a big round of applause and appreciation. Thank you to the community of Hagerstown. Thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you for continuing to host us. We love you. For all the folks that are out there doing all the cooking to feed us, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all the volunteers that remain behind the scenes. By the way, anybody, please, anybody that can stay behind from the convoy today would be greatly appreciated if you would stay
Difficult to hear him.
The volunteers here on the ground. They need some help
But
behind
he's,
the scenes today.
he's saying that vaccination should be a personal choice.
People, it's about 10%.
That's absolutely what it should be.
They need some help. They need some help today.
Speaking of vaccinations, nobody's talking about it anymore.
But seriously, if you don't mind sitting back today and doing a little bit of work for the cause here on the ground, please stay back. And I'll have you meet right here at
Yeah, so again, he basically said that the truckers deserve to be heard. Those were his words. And he says these petty bureaucrats are putting people into a difficult position where they have to choose between being vaccinated and having a job. And
I'd like to introduce a man who came to bat for us the other day and gave us a platform
here
to
he
hear
is.
our
This
voice
is Ted
heard.
Cruz.
Hear our voice heard. Is that a word? Is that how you say that? I'm not even sure. How you doing, sir? You doing all right?
And this was this morning.
I got to say this with them up here, right? God bless Texas. You all know him from his pretty smile and his laughter. Anyways, I'm getting out of here. Let's let Senator Ted Cruz do some talking for us. Welcome to the stage.
Welcome.
God bless the truckers.
Yeah.
Let me just say to each of you, thank you for being here. Thank you for speaking out. Thank you for giving your voice. You are standing up. You're standing up for truckers across the country, but you're standing up for every man, every woman, every child in America. You're standing up for freedom. This didn't used to be that complicated a proposition. It ought to be your choice what you put in your body. It ought to be your choice what healthcare decisions you make. And it damn sure ought to be your choice what healthcare your kids. Now look, we've all got our rights. If you choose to get the COVID vaccine, that's your choice. Fantastic. But if you make the choice not to, that's your choice also.
Yes.
And it shouldn't be a bunch of petty government tyrants.
That's right.
Who are trying to force you to make a personal health care decision.
Free.
You know, 2 years ago when this pandemic started, you had lots of politicians who would give speeches about heroes. When these idiot politicians shut down small businesses and schools all over the country, you heard those same politicians talking about the hero truck drivers that made our supply chain move, that put food on the shelves, that ensured that people had what they need for day-to-day life. Now suddenly those same heroes that they were praising, they're trying to get fired. We heard about first responders. These politicians are trying to fire cops and firefighters who dare make the decision for their own health care. Doctors and nurses. How many poetic speeches did we hear about the heroes on the front line until these idiots say, sorry, if you don't comply, you're fired. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines. Nurses. Teachers.
Wind technicians.
It is fundamentally wrong. I'll tell you, I've talked to Navy SEALs who spent a decade or more defending our nation, who've trained, who've gone through incredible training to risk their lives to keep us safe. And now these idiots are saying you're fired if you don't comply. It is fundamentally wrong. And I want to tell you, your voice is being heard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When the Canadian truckers began speaking up, the eyes of the world were transfixed on Canada.
That's right.
Canadian truckers, they were standing up for Canadian freedom, but they were standing up for Americans as well. And this convoy is carrying on that same spirit. And let me take a minute to speak to the folks in the media who want to portray you guys as a bunch of violent criminals. That is utter and complete garbage. The men and women here, you are exercising your First Amendment right to free speech and peaceful protest.
Yes.
And something the left doesn't seem to understand. If you engage in violence, you go to jail. But if you don't engage in violence, if you're exercising free speech, you got a right to do, agree with what you're saying or not, you got to first believe. But in this case, what you're speaking out for is the freedom of people all across this country. And so I am proud to stand with you. I am proud to stand alongside you as we fight for freedom. And people are waking up all across this country. People are waking up. And there's a very simple message. You know, several of us met earlier this week in the Capitol. There are a bunch of reporters Oh, at one point, one of the reporters from a left-wing outlet said, all you fevered truck drivers.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
As I look around, I don't see any fevers. I do see people who are pissed off.
We the people are pissed off.
But, they ask, what do you want? All right, I'm going to put it really simply for the reporters that are not all that bright and not all that honest. What the men and women want here is for the government to leave you the hell alone. And that is the most American sentiment you can imagine. It is your life. It is your health care. It is your speech. It is your freedom. And you have the right to speak and make the choices for your own family. The Constitution protects it, and we will stand and fight and demand it. And God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
How do you follow up that? At the beginning of this in Adelanto, the first time I took the stage, it was a very scary moment. And that, I'm like, what the heck am I doing up here? Never thought it would lead to a moment that I'm standing next to Senator Ted Cruz. But what I could say is that speech that I gave, I don't call it a speech, when I rambled in Adelanto, California, I said that it is time to remind our government that they work for us. I think you're starting to see that here by the presence of Senator Ted Cruz. He seems to understand that. And I look forward to continued dialogue with him and his colleagues and members of the House to keep doing what we're doing here and drive forward with the message that we're trying to set forward here. As we set off on this convoy, I believe he's going to be hopping in the lead truck. Hi, Fox News, we're out here. Hi, CNN, we're out here. Hi, MSNBC, we're out here. Yeah, maybe now you'll show it, right? Thank you. Thank you. Hats off, round of applause for Senator Ted Cruz for joining us. Awesome having you out here. We greatly appreciate it. At this time, I'd like everybody to start heading back to their vehicles and start getting them ready. Remember, do not pull out until you are directed to do so. We will be running this convoy like we did in the couple days back, where it was dress right dress, as I call it. Remember to have your partner in the convoy. You're gonna ride
Comments, Brendan? What do you think of Ted Cruz's speech to the truckers?
He hit the nail on the head. And I've said it before too, that the desire is simple, just to be left the hell alone by government and government overreach. It just very well stated. It's very interesting, the turn of events with Fox News, that they were very involved in the Canadian trucker protest. But at this point, they don't seem to be very involved in this at all. Matter of fact, I think that they have jumped very much onto the Ukraine bandwagon in an almost shameful way. As we've seen, a lot of our favorite pundits over at Fox News are very much warmongering, I would call it. And my favorite pundit of all, what the heck's his name? Greg Gutfeld. He hasn't been seen in a couple of weeks since this happened. They've taken his show off of the air.
So I didn't know, they've taken Gutfeld off the air?
Yeah, so every night when it's his time slot to go on for late night talk show host, they say tonight's episode of Gutfeld is not going to be shown, and they just focus solely on Ukraine. So I think we know what basket Fox News is putting their eggs in.
That's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. You're sure he's just not on vacation?
I'm very aware because I remember the first night when Russia went over the Ukraine border. It said, due to special broadcast, Gutfeld will not be airing. And I could take you to his Facebook page that says the same thing.
Hey, just want to clarify that.
Interesting.
To send your photos and videos is freedom.
Perhaps Gutfeld is in Ukraine, says Go Free Speech, with his mother-in-law, who Fox got out of Ukraine into Poland.
Would like to ride along with you tomorrow. Her name is Lucy. You've been with us from the start.
Well, there's so much going on. I wasn't up to speed on any of that, so I'm not sure what to make of that. But,
so here, 7 hours ago, Gutfeld will not air tonight due to breaking news. For the latest, stay tuned. Gutfeld will not air yesterday. The day before, March 8th, Gutfeld will not air due to breaking news. March 7th, Gutfeld will not air tonight due to breaking news. And again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And yeah, so this is the last show they had lined up on February 23rd, and just a few hours after, they made this post at 8:32 p.m. Gutfeld will not air tonight due to breaking news. And there you have it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And we should remind you that if you can support our journalism, you can do so by donating at freedomreporters.com. You can click the link in the YouTube description or on the Facebook platform. We're also on Rumble now, and you'll find the hot link in there as well, or you can go straight to the donation page at freedomreporters.com. We are entirely funded by viewers, and we have a lot of work to do as we fight for freedom by fighting the information war. And that's what I think that's one of the main battlefronts, if not the main battlefront right now, on the pandemic issue and certainly on the Ukraine issue, as the propaganda machines keep ramping up, and they've hit a fever pitch in the last few days especially. But yeah, we're here trying to bring you people like Lee and live video streams and just trying to cut through the propaganda.
Other exciting guests that we are not able to divulge yet, but we will be letting you know about that coming up. And be sure to subscribe to our Rumble page, because we will be putting out exclusive content to Rumble only in the near future, as we will be looking at some not so YouTube-friendly content. With that being said, and also you can support us by giving this video here a thumbs up and selecting the subscribe button.
And here's a video of Ted Cruz today. We did run this morning, but I'll run it for you again. This is Ted Cruz in the lead vehicle this morning. We did get this feed out of there, and we brought this to you this morning when Ted Cruz was actually riding in the lead truck with the Peoples Convoy. So this was the scene as he was leaving the Hagerstown Speedway. And as we indicated, single file, when they make a single lap around the Beltway surrounding Washington, D.C., the convoy is so long it actually overlaps. So today the lead truck was actually meeting the trucks on the other side, so that the convoy was overlapping, going around the Beltway. They have that many trucks there now. And even though it's over 60 miles in length, the mainstream media largely is still not covering this. Having Ted Cruz go down there today helped change that. They did get some additional media coverage, but really, for the most part, the media is trying to ignore this as though it doesn't exist.
With that being said, I think we should talk about a little bit of the fallout from the Canadian trucker convoy that the National Security Advisor for Canada has made some new statements today. And I think this is worthy of picking apart because the government at this point in time is going to maintain very strictly the narrative that they put in place to justify the use of the Emergencies Act, which is absolutely abhorrent and has stained this country of Canada all across the globe. As we had played last night, thoughts coming out of UK and what people actually think of Justin Trudeau. So let's take a look here. So convoy organizers had extreme aims, says Prime Minister's National Security Advisor. Extremism was at play amid the trucker convoy protests and blockades, and there is no doubt that some of the organizers who came to Ottawa did so with the intentions of overthrowing the government, according to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's top security advisor. Jody Thomas says in unpacking what went down during the convoy protests, the clearing of them, and the divisions, the whole ordeal exposed Canada needs to take seriously the rise of domestic, ideologically driven, motivated, violent extremism. 2 months ago, Thomas took on the key job as Trudeau's National Security and Intelligence Advisor after a long career in the federal public service. The people who organized that arrest, and there were several factions, there's no doubt, come to overthrow the government. Whether their ability to do that was there, whether their intent and understanding of how to do that was realistic, is actually irrelevant in to what they wanted to do. And I think we have to think about it from that lens, Thomas said Wednesday during a panel discussion on the state of national security in Canada as part of the Ottawa Conference on Security and Defense. So, over the weeks that the convoy was encamped in Ottawa, some organizers cycled through a range of proposals that lacked basic understanding of Canada's democratic system, from a later revoked memorandum involving the Senate to suggesting that they'd be willing to form a coalition with opposition parties and the involvement of the Governor General to overthrow Trudeau. Other organizers spoke against these aims, insisting their focus was on peacefully pushing blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. What does matter is what the national...
other part there. I can't see that part of the article, Brendan, just where they were talking about forming, what was that? Forming a coalition or something of, what does that say? Coalition. Where did it go? Here we go. Over the weeks that the convoy was encamped in Ottawa, some organizers cycled through a range of proposals that lacked a basic understanding of Canada's democratic system, from a later revoked memorandum involving the Senate to suggesting they'd be willing to form a coalition with opposition parties and the involvement of the Governor General to overthrow Trudeau. So it looks like they wanted some kind of coalition to occur where the Governor General would overthrow Justin Trudeau. Well, okay, stop there for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what are they? This is an important point.
Mm-hmm.
There's an insurrection or an attempt to overthrow a government would suggest that they were planning some sort of a coup, which would normally involve some sort of violent action where you're going in with guns and weapons through use of force and violence, essentially an act of war, overthrow a government, maybe even assassinate the prime minister. That would be an attempt to overthrow the government. What you're talking about here, I think this idiot doesn't understand what overthrowing a government means because he's a freaking moron.
She's a freaking moron.
There's nothing illegal about trying to come up with some sort of a plan to lawfully and legally or explore ideas that could result in the removal of a prime minister through lawful means. They're obviously talking about forming a coalition with other politicians who are duly elected to maybe have some sort of a non-confidence vote or work with the Senate, who are politically appointed and are a house of sober second thought on issues of legislation. Maybe they don't understand the political processes to the same level as a bureaucrat or a career politician might, or maybe a lawyer, because they're truckers. But what they're talking about here is exploring political options to have the government changed, if necessary, if they won't listen to the people and provide some relief to these draconian lockdown measures and COVID mandates that have done incredible damage to small businesses and to individuals and that have stripped people of their rights. There's a big difference between exploring ideas to find a political solution to a problem and maybe find a political way to have a prime minister relieved of their position and a coup. There's a hell of a big difference. And these people, again, are engaging in doublespeak. And it's sickening. It's terrible because they're leading people to believe the opposite is true, that this was somehow a violent thing. Can we continue reading the article just a little bit further, please? Because that's actually very dangerous what this idiot is laying out for people. And I just don't believe for one moment, not for a minute, that there was any intention to stage any kind of a violent coup to overthrow the government of Canada or to in any way harm even a single hair on the head of any politician there. And if we had ever had any wind of that, and I think you'll absolutely agree with me on this, Brendan, and I know you will, we would not hesitate for a moment to call that out.
Of course.
We would never be in favor of anything like that. No violence ever.
It's especially due to the fact that one of our biggest disagreements with Ukraine is they have not only had one, but two violent coups, and yet it's acceptable for our government to go and support that. But when we want to proceed with a protest, which is very peaceful, and that is why we primarily supported it, and at no time would we ever hesitate to call out violence when we see it. And the only violence that we ever seen and that we were able to call out came out from the left, as you'd seen Carla Olson, our person on the ground in Ottawa, who was attacked by a violent leftist, and as well as the police, who came out and committed atrocious acts of violence against its citizens. So we have
what? Even here, this guy Loudon, he made reference to the army and saying something like, "All we need is the army." There are a lot of trolls right now among us in the comments section, and comments about army and we need an army. No, we don't. Okay, these are trolls. This is not the people who are normally watching us. These are not our regular viewers, unless they're troll regular viewers. But these are the kinds of things that are meant to undermine what we're doing. Unless I'm misinterpreting what Loudon is saying, I just don't think any reference to anything related to anything military or violent in any way is helpful here at all, and we don't stand for it. And I know that any of these kinds of comments are coming from trolls. And I'm sorry to have interrupted you, and I'll let you continue with your thought.
No, that was my thought. If you want, I'll continue with the article.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Other organizers spoke against these aims, insisting their focus was on peacefully pushing for the eradication of COVID-19 policies and vaccine mandates. Though near the tail end of an affiliated convoy blockade in Coutts, Alberta, police charged 4 participants with conspiracy to commit murder after authorities seized a number of weapons and ammunition. At the time, Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino indicated that participants in the Alberta blockade had strong ties to a far-right extreme organization with leaders who are in Ottawa. While the minister did not offer specifics, there has been reporting and work by the Canadian Anti-Hate Network that has identified participants seen in Ottawa that have espoused rhetoric, worn insignias, or otherwise indicated connections to extreme groups.
Okay, stop there, please.
Mm-hmm.
We laid a lot of that out for people, and unless they have other information, which they seem unwilling to share with the public for some reason, I think that if the only reason, if the only group that they're talking about is the one that we were talking about the other night, that's freaking ridiculous.
Just let me make a point of this quickly. So I clicked this hot link here, connections to extreme groups, and it does bring up the article pertaining Diagolon.
Jesus. Which is, as far as I can tell, Diagolon is a fictional country created by an online comedian.
After he consumed marijuana edibles.
Okay? So, this is ridiculous. Unless they've got something better than that, I still just don't buy it. And any reporter that is reporting on Diagolon needs to dig a little bit deeper, because I can't find anything to suggest that they are really any kind of a serious threat. And I still want the facts to come out on this weapons seizure out in Western Canada, which the cops said at the time was not really, those people were not directly involved with the actual protest at the border. So I want to know what the real facts are surrounding that. I want the evidence. I want the facts. I don't want some media reports. We've seen nothing but lies and fabrication from the media since the beginning of that convoy in Ottawa. So I want real proof before I am willing to accept any of this crap, because I think that's basically what it is. This is another fabrication. And we've seen outright lies from what I've come to call now the anti-Canadian hate network. All right? Because these people engage in this doublespeak, this Orwellian language that is meant to confuse people and screw with people's minds all the time. Anti-hate, the Canadian anti-hate network. I don't think so. I don't think so, folks. Dig into them deeper. They're government funded. They're like a propaganda machine for Justin Trudeau. And what they do is they seem to go after his political opponents, people that they don't like. I would call them the anti-Canadian hate network, because they divide people into little groups and engage in identity politics. I want proof from them too. Proof, real proof.
If you don't believe us, and this is a direct quote from one of their main people over there. I can't remember what the guy's name, but he said the protests in Ottawa was the most, what was it? The most significant amount of hate symbols ever seen in Ottawa, because there was one Confederate flag and one Nazi flag. Meanwhile,
you'd think that it was just the place was just wallpapered with Nazi flags.
And do you remember that night we talked about Trevor Noah? He said Nazi symbols are kind of like cantaloupe in a fruit salad, that it just takes over the whole thing. Well, I guess that's not very true, because what are we looking at when it comes to Ukraine? There's more Nazi symbols in Ukraine than you could swing a dead cat at.
Yeah, Pamela Thrasher says Jeremy McKenzie. That's right. He's an online comedian, and he created this fictional country called Diagolon, and they've been targeting him. Now, I don't know Jeremy. I just know the story. I just know what basically has been laid out. And the The cops and the government have been cryptic on this. They're not being transparent. They're not giving us all the information. They're keeping much of this secret. It's just too scary for people to know. I want to know. The people deserve to know. If you're going to make accusations like that, if you're going to use the Emergencies Act or the War Measures Act to basically declare war on a large portion of your own people, your own citizens, I think the people deserve to know why. What was the big threat? What was it really? Is it this Diagolon thing? Is that what it is? And if it is this Diagolon thing, then show me the proof. Show me how these guys are really that bad. And who are these guys? Because it seems to me we're talking about some fictional country someplace with, what is it? Is it a unicorn or something they have as their prime minister? Some stupid horse thing. I don't know what it is, man. I can't remember now. But because there was so much information that I had to absorb regarding that. But the whole thing just seems ridiculous. Now, if the RCMP wants to come on here and have a discussion about this with us, I'm totally open to that. And maybe we should make a call to them and see if they have more information they'd like to share with us. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Call up the RCMP and ask them. I don't know, man. But this seems ridiculous. This is propaganda BS. This is government propaganda. And they're just not going to let it go. Let's continue reading.
Yeah.
Rebecca says a unicorn. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's terrifying. The occupation of Ottawa was dug in. They had supply chains, they had organization, they had funding coming in from across Canada, but also other countries. I think that to characterize it as a protest, peaceful or otherwise, is an oversimplification of the reality of what was going on the ground. Thomas' comments echoed some of the justification given from the government in the days following the invocation of the Emergencies Act, including that it was done out of concern for serious violence against persons or property for the purpose of achieving a political or ideological objective.
Can we pause for a moment, too? I just want to apologize to Loudon. Apparently, I misunderstood him. And if that's the case, I do apologize, Loudon. Maybe what he means is that the military is on the people's side, not the government's. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's all it was. So I apologize if I misunderstood. And Kenzie Lee and a few other people are aware of this story regarding Diagolon. And apparently it's a goat that is with a problem with narcotics that is the president of Diagolon. So, yeah, okay. You know what? The more this plays out, the more I want to get the RCMP on here. Or who's this guy, this security advisor to Justin Trudeau? Let's get him on here. Let's call him and invite him on the show, and let's have him explain himself.
Yeah.
They keep going on about this, and they're trying to destroy people's lives with it. So let's have the facts. Let's lay it out. Let's get them on the show. I invite them to come on and tell us what this is really all about. I want to know. The people deserve to know. We want to know the real story.
So it goes on to say that Thomas's job to provide intelligence briefings to Trudeau and his cabinet, as well as offer policy and operational advice. She said that going forward, including as the Emergencies Act Parliamentary Review Committee and coming inquiry begin, Canada has a lot to unpack when it comes to understanding what's going on and its impacts. I think that domestic ideologically motivated extremism is here, and it's here to stay. We have lived in the splendid, naive sort of superiority that this was not our problem in Canada, that this was a south of the border problem, that it existed in other countries, but not in Canada. And that's simply not true. She said, suggesting that if there had been a religiously motivated extremist in the convoy, the country's reaction would have been different. It will require significant rebuilding to understand and try to resolve. During the panel, before being asked about the convoy, Thomas said that ideologically motivated violent extremism poses serious and deadly challenges for Canada's national security community. We are increasingly seeing domestic actors radicalized online in spaces filled with hate and misinformation. Threaten to use violence to reach their ideological objectives, she said. And that's the article.
So they're saying that they were threatening to use violence?
No, she says that people are online. We are increasingly seeing domestic actors radicalized online in spaces filled with hate and misinformation threaten to use violence to reach their ideological objectives, she said. They said words on Facebook and it hurt my feelings. That's what she said, basically. Now, this is terrible in the fact that she offers zero evidence for what she is saying. And in fact, the government likes to blame people for concocting conspiracy theories. They're the ones who have concocted a conspiracy theory here. 100%.
You know, security advisor. I wonder what his qualifications are. I'm not familiar with him. We'll have to figure this out.
Yeah, it's a girl. Her name is.
Oh, it's a girl. Yeah, I'm not familiar with this person.
Jody Thomas. And it says that she worked with the public service, Canada Public Service, for many years. And interestingly enough, the union for the public service is QP, and they had been seen in Ottawa flying communist flags.
Yeah,
Riddle me that, Batman.
Jesus. Why do I get the feeling we're dealing with? You know what? I was going to say we're not dealing with the brightest bulbs, right? But you know what the real problem is? They are bright, and they do know what they're doing, and they do know that they're engaged in fabrication. And if I'm wrong about that, I will apologize to Jody. But I want facts, I want proof, and I think we should invite her onto the show.
Sure.
To explain all of this, because I have some questions about this, and I'd like to get to the bottom of it. Who's telling the truth? Is it the government? Are they telling the truth that we're dealing with some crazy white supremacist violent people who want to overthrow the government so that they can install a goat as the new prime minister? Or is it or are we really dealing with a comedian who has created a fictional country, and they've taken this and they've blown it out of proportion? So she is Bachelor of Commerce.
University of Calgary. Bachelor of Arts, Carleton University. Let's start from the beginning. Director of Security Operations at Passport Canada. Director General, Security, Passport Canada. Chief Operating Officer, Passport Canada. Deputy Commissioner of Operations, Canadian Coast Guard. Special Advisor to the Deputy Secretary to the Cabinet of Operations in the Privy Council. Commissioner of the Canadian Coast Guard, Fisheries and Oceans Canada. Senior Associate Deputy Minister of National Defense. Deputy Minister of National Defense. Any of this tell you why this person is for national defense, and it doesn't look like they have any education to kind of back it up? Bachelor of Arts at Carleton University. Bachelor of Commerce. I mean, you talk a lot about fat cats feeding from the public trough, and this is one of them.
Yeah, and somebody says, are you sure Jody is a she? I don't know.
Yeah, she's a she.
Is Jody a she? We'll find it. I don't know this person. I'm not familiar with them. Whatever. How does having a Bachelor of Commerce or a Bachelor of Arts set you up for a career in security, national security? This person has had, a string of jobs in the field, Maybe there's some competence there. I don't know.
I think I know how she got in. So, for those of you who doubt the great Brendan and his research, there you go. Pull it up. There, see? That's why she got in. Meet Jody Thomas, first woman to head the Canadian Coast Guard. There she is.
Mm-hmm. Well, she can. She's welcome to come on and set us straight. As long as she's got some facts and some information and some evidence to back up these claims. Because right now, I haven't seen any.
Just conspiracy theories, and we know how much the government doesn't like those.
I just don't know. And I think we should invite Jeremy McKenzie on and get his full take on this as well. And see what he has to say, because we want to bring you all sides of the story. And I think everyone deserves to be heard, especially when they're being accused of something that serious.
It's
right?
very serious. Very serious.
Yeah. Yeah. We've run some clips from Jeremy McKenzie on this program. And from what I saw, much of what he had to say was thoughtful, very critical of government, but then so too are we. And
he's also a Canadian veteran who has served his country in the Afghanistan theater and deserves our respect.
Rick Walker, let's not forget that a comedian is in charge of Ukraine, says Ms. Jensky. Maybe that's why government is so scared of Diagolon. Yeah. You know, actors actors seem to become presidents and prime ministers these days. But like I said, there's a big difference between overthrowing a government and with a coup and violence, and having a bunch of truckers sit around and try to figure out how the system works so that they can find a political solution to a problem or a political challenge. There's a huge difference. And I have no doubt that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals feel threatened by the truckers because they want to get them voted out of office or removed through some political process, like a non-confidence vote of some kind. And yes, so what if, like it says in the article, the previous article, so what if they don't understand the process, the political process entirely? But then that's why they're exploring these ideas, right? That would be my take on it, but that's not a crime. That's just not a crime. In fact, in a free and democratic society, it's part of the process. Anything else we want to talk about with regard to Jody Thomas?
I'm just checking the WEF website about it, and I can't seem to find anything. Maybe somebody greater than I.
And look, Jody Thomas, she's had a lot of, important positions. Maybe she's a stand-up person. Maybe she's being very sincere. Maybe she believes everything she's doing. Maybe she has real evidence. Let's lay it all out. Let's find out what it is. What's the case? Let her make her case. Because right now we're just getting we're getting accusations with no real proof of anything. And she didn't even come out in that statement to the mainstream media and actually name whatever group it is. It was CTV that was linking over to their story about Diagolon. So was Jody Thomas actually referring to Diagolon and Jeremy McKenzie and this fictional group? We don't know, but CTV is jumping to that conclusion, and the government has singled out this apparently fictitious country. At least that's the explanation that we've had come back from Jeremy McKenzie, that it's a fictional country. And from what I've seen, because I went over to check out his online cast, that's what it looks like to me. And I don't think he's got the resources or the support maybe to overthrow the government. Maybe I'm wrong. So prove it. And as I say, I don't know Jeremy McKenzie. Never met him.
We do
we've
have
never
some
met
things in
person.
development with that, and
Yeah.
once we get a for sure, we will make an announcement. So.
Oh, I watched a video of his the other night because, since all this unfolded, I took note of him, right? And he created another country. What did he call it? Spatulon. Because he was doing his comedy routine and started talking about some of this again. And he picked out, there was a spatula sitting beside his computer. So he picked it up and started talking about Spatulon, and just off the top of his head made another country. So there's a dual threat now because I think they're forming an alliance. An alliance, yeah. Or maybe it's an axis, the axis powers of Diagolon and Spatulon. They're all armed with spatulas, by the way, so that they can spank their enemies.
They can be very deadly,
It's just the whole thing, Brendan, is so freaking ridiculous. But it just shows that how unserious our country has become and how out of control our government is. I'm just
well, especially if you want to draw conclusions like, okay, so in what was it, 1970, the FLQ had the War Measures Act declared upon them, and the FLQ is responsible for quite a few bombings and had actually killed people.
I think it was 200 bombings. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you draw a line from 1970 to 2022. Oh, there's a fictitious state of Diagolon that wants to overthrow the government. Like, give me a break. Where is the line? And I've even seen some conservative pundits come out and quite shamefully try to say that the Emergency Measures Act was not martial law. And that I go, well, take a look. All you have to do, all the footage from Ottawa is there. That is exactly what martial law looks like, what we saw in Ottawa.
Yeah,
I had the definition of.
That's exactly what we've been witnessing, and the imposition of the Emergencies Act or the War Measures Act, that's a form of martial law. There is can we just move on here? I think, Brendan, there is this video that is from Roger Waters from Pink Floyd, and this is a note from Roger. Now, I've not seen this whole thing, but apparently it's worth watching, and it's his response to Ukraine. And I think he's responding to a note from a little girl. So I thought we might want to.
Do you want to go out? Okay. Do you want to go out and make a bet before we play this if it's going to be woke or not?
No, I wouldn't. I don't know. But we can comment either way.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, it probably will. But I'm
probably woke.
Yeah, probably woke.
All right. Well, let's let her rip and. We'll find out where Roger Waters is on all of this. So let's see what he says. I'll read this for people who might just be listening. A note from Roger regarding Ukraine, but first a note from Alina. Hello, my name is Alina Mitrofanova. I am 19 years old and I live in Ukraine. Today, my country is resisting the Russian invasion and the real war started by Russian president and led by Russian army. I'm a huge Pink Floyd and Roger Waters fan, and it was very important for me to hear Roger's opinion on this whole situation. It may not seem as urgent and critical because this war can be considered as only our problem, but unfortunately, it rapidly becomes a catastrophe for the entire Europe and world. The war started 11 days ago, and every day we hear sirens that signalize about bombs thrown by Russian occupants. Russia's aggression destroys my country, kills hundreds of innocent adults and children in my country, and I cannot explain how many Ukrainians are forced to leave their homes and run away. I have to mute the audio because the music is going to give us a copyright strike. I cannot explain how many Ukrainians are forced to leave their homes and run away from this madness. Ukrainian eastern cities are being destroyed by Russian army. Hundreds of thousands of people are evacuating and becoming refugees, and their number is increasing every minute. I'm in pain, as many other Ukrainians, because it hurts a lot to see how my country becomes a military target for Russia and its mad leader, who's convinced that there are neo-Nazis who have to be killed. It's absolutely false because I live here and I can tell 200% that there are no such people there. I ask Roger to speak publicly about this war because I still cannot understand how a person who wrote a significant number of anti-war lyrics hasn't spoken about tragedy yet. Furthermore, I fully understand that Roger's point of view may be different, but I ask him to share his own opinion on this war. It's better than just being silent because in this situation, silence is one of the worst enemies. It's impossible to build a wall in this situation and stay isolated from this problem. I'm 95% sure that this letter will not be delivered to Roger directly, and it would be just a miracle if I have an answer. However, a man who speaks about risks of nuclear catastrophe and about the senselessness of the war cannot be silent in this situation. Tell the world your position. Best regards from Ukraine, Alina Mitrofanova. And Roger Waters responds, Dear Alina, I read your letter. I feel your pain. I am disgusted by Putin's invasion of Ukraine. It is a criminal mistake, in my opinion, the act of a gangster. There must be an immediate ceasefire. I regret that Western governments are fueling the fire that will destroy your beautiful country by pouring arms into Ukraine instead of engaging in the diplomacy that will be necessary to stop the slaughter. Rest assured, if all our leaders don't turn down the rhetoric and engage in diplomatic negotiations, there will be precious little of Ukraine left when the fighting is over. A long drawn-out insurgency in Ukraine would be great for the gangster hawks in Washington. It's what they dream of, playing the game, as they do, with the bravery of being out of range. I desperately hope your president is not a gangster too, and that he will do what is best for his people and demand of the Americans that they come to the table. Sadly, however, many world leaders are gangsters, and my disgust for political gangsters did not start last week with Putin. I was disgusted by the gangsters Bush and Blair when they invaded Iraq in 2003. I was and still am disgusted by the gangster government of Israel's invasion of Palestine in 1967 and its subsequent apartheid occupation of that land, which has now been going on for over 50 years. I was disgusted by the gangsters Obama and Clinton ordering NATO's illegal bombings of both Libya and Serbia. I am disgusted by the wholesale destruction of Syria, initiated as it was in 2011 by outside interference in the cause of regime change. I was disgusted by the invasion of Lebanon in 1982, when the gangster Shimon Peres connived with the Christian phalangist militias in the murder of Palestinian refugees in Sabra and Shatila, refugee camps in the south of that country. I feel for you, Alina, and your mom and dad, and your uncles and aunts and brothers and sisters and cousins. I lost both my father, Eric Fletcher Waters, and my grandfather, George Henry Waters, in wars fighting the Germans. Please believe me when I tell you that I believe in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, signed in Paris, 1948. I have fought as hard as I know how to foster and support human rights for all my brothers and sisters all over the world for as long as I can remember, and I support you and yours now with all my heart. Speaking of gangsters, I do have to take issue with you about one thing in your letter. Your 200% belief that there are no neo-Nazis in your country is almost certainly mistaken. Both the Azov battalions in your army, the National Militia, and C-14 are well-known self-proclaimed neo-Nazi groups. They are gangsters too. Also, I have not been silent on Ukraine. I wrote a piece which was distributed last week by Globetrotter. I shall append it to this post. What else, Alina? Well, we, the people, all of us in every country in the world, including Ukraine and Russia, can fight the gangsters. We can tell them we will not be part of their obscene and deadly wars to garner power and wealth at the expense of others. We can tell them that our families, in fact, all families all over the world, mean more to us than all the power and money in the world. Where I live in the USA, we can join Black Lives Matter or Code Pink or BDS or Veterans for Peace or a myriad of other anti-war, pro-law, pro-freedom, pro-human rights organizations. I will do anything I can to help effect the end of this awful war in your country, anything that is except wave a flag to encourage the slaughter. That is what the gangsters want. They want us to wave flags. That is how they divide and control us, by encouraging the waving of flags to create a smokescreen of enmity to bind us to our innate capacity to empathize with one another while they plunder and rape our fragile planet. I will do everything in my power to help bring peace back to you and your family and your beautiful country. The long drawn-out war insurgency that Hillary Clinton and Condoleezza Rice and the rest of the has-been gangster Washington hawks are encouraging is not in your nor in Ukraine's best interests. I wish you well, Alina. Thank you for your letter. And if you choose to send a reply to this, I will print that reply. I promise. Love, R. P.S. Have you got a dog? If so, please send a pic. Semi-woke.
Semi-woke. Actually, I was going to say more like communist with his affiliations with BLM.
Yeah, Marxist, yeah.
But he shares a lot of our same opinions where we understand that the regular
a lot of common
people,
ground there, right?
Yeah, the regular people like me, like you, like our audience.
Randy says Black Lives Matter. Are you high? Total government organization of disinformation. I agree. Black Lives Matter. Marxist organization, not what they appear to be. Misuse of funds. Terrible organization. Violent. Completely misplaced trust and support there, in my opinion, on his behalf. But I think that's because he has his own agenda as well. And while there is some overlap and some common ground there, I think we need to also read what even Roger Waters says carefully, just as everyone should listen to what I have to say carefully and dissect it and make your own, come to your own conclusions and judgments.
But the big point that he makes is that it's me, you, and the audience and the people of Ukraine. Like, we're the pawns in this situation.
That much is certain.
Yeah.
That much is certain. But no, I wouldn't give a penny to Black Lives Matter.
Oh, no. Ooh.
To support their mostly peaceful, fiery protests that resulted in many people being killed and beaten in the streets and cops murdered and a whole host of other horrors that unfolded. I'm sorry, but that's what that led to. And
the squandering of money that corporations and people had paid under the guise that Black Lives Matter was going to fix social injustice ended up going to feed people at the top.
BLM co-founder spent $4 million on 3 homes from donations. That's true.
That's very true.
Constantine, yeah. Yeah, so, we don't want to dwell too much on the BLM thing because we have all these other things we've been talking about tonight, and, Ukraine is the issue at hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those brave truckers are still out there putting it on the line and fighting for freedom. And I think there's right there for me, that's the key to everything. Freedom. Getting the government out of our lives as much as possible. That's the key. It's not more government solutions because the government just keeps getting us into more and more trouble. And if we could get the governments out of Ukraine and leave the people there alone, I think we'd solve a lot of the problems there too. And we could certainly bring that conflict to a quick resolution if we just got the politicians out of there, the U.S. and the Russians, right? And NATO.
That's just it. And Justin, how Western politicians and NATO are inflaming this situation is the biggest key to what is going on, in my opinion.
Yeah, Ms. Jensky says he's not affiliated to BLM. He said in the U.S. you're free to support any cause. That's true. Mm-hmm. It did seem like he was sort of supporting BLM, though. And,
I would wager. I'd wager.
Yeah.
That.
But, people have a wide range of opinions on all of these different groups. And if you want to support BLM, that's your right to do that.
Like we said, we're all about freedom.
Yeah.
All about that.
But yeah, a lot of common ground there with Roger Waters on this issue in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And Ms. Jensky has a family connection to Roger Waters. That's
cool.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Why I haven't mentioned BLM though? I don't know. He just did. He just brought it up. So we'll see. But and he also pointed out that there are Nazi groups in Ukraine, and they're gangsters too. And there's common ground there with him on that at that point. And I take issue with our government using any of the tax dollars that I pay every year to buy any weapons to send over to any group like that. I don't like it. I don't want that. I don't want my tax dollars used that way. Give it to, use it to feed some homeless people here or something. Put it to better use, because I don't really want them buying guns for Nazis.
No, absolutely not. And for the government to outright not even mention Nazis in any shape or form, I think that's the big problem. It means they're outright hiding something that is in plain sight. And that's the best place to hide things. It's right in front of your face.
And, the other thing that's interesting here, I don't know if it's interesting, but I don't know why we're always turning to celebrities, musicians, actors, why we give them a bigger voice than other people when it comes to political issues and international politics. I don't know why they seem to be regarded as being smarter or better qualified, or why their opinions matter more than other people's. They just have a higher public profile. I don't think they're any smarter than anybody else necessarily. But I guess that's just what fame does, right?
Mm-hmm.
Floyd at 16 carjacked a elderly black woman's car because he didn't want to walk. Then when he died, he said he was unable to ride in cars. What? He died when she died? I don't know what that means. I'm not familiar with that story. Do you know anything about that?
No, I cannot say that I'm familiar.
Yeah. Like Sean Penn. Yeah, exactly. Like, who cares what Sean Penn thinks?
And how many years has Sean Penn even been relevant?
Well, he's like he's like Alyssa Milano.
Yeah.
It's kind of like she was on Who's the Boss and made, a couple of B movies after that, and then became they pay these people to do these things, to have a high profile, and make political statements. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It's remarkable with Alyssa Milano. Now that you make that point, that she was a huge supporter of defund the police. And then it came out like shortly after that there was somebody in her exquisite gated neighborhood. It was like a kid running around with a prop gun or something, and they called the police on him, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, help us! Somebody's running around with a gun."
And who was it? Was it Patricia Arquette? What was the comment that she made? Let me look that up. That was hilarious. Oh, yeah. I remember now. It was just a few days ago. Patricia Arquette, yeah, she wanted to, she said that Ukraine should be kicked out of NATO.
Oh,
Russia should be kicked out of NATO. Sorry, because of the the invasion of.
That was like day one, weeks ago.
Oh, here's this YouTuber guy. Let's just let him say it. Hang on, I'm going to cue this up. Let's see just how this online comedian dude, whatever he is, YouTuber, I don't know who this guy is, but let's just let him roll, and I'll let him tell the story.
We have a winner. Actress Patricia Arquette scores the dumbest tweet of the week. And indeed, this is just a whole new level of insanity coming from Hollywood. which is why, Hollywood, they want all these Hollywood elites, they want to continue to be in charge of you in your life, and they want to be able to dictate what you do. They want to dictate what you think, what you believe, and all these other things. And yet these people can't even grasp that Russia is, not a part of NATO. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, where Patricia Arquette, this is a deleted tweet, by the way, she tweeted out, in response to this tweet here, she tweeted out, "Kick Russia out of NATO," which, anybody who knows anything knows that, that isn't even a thing. But all of that aside, and so we have people here who are saying, and these are the people who think they should be in charge. Wow. Yeah. Do you want Hollywood elites to be in charge of you in your life? I don't think so. This takes me all the way back to Ricky Gervais completely destroying the Hollywood elites at the Golden Globes. What was that? Was that in early 2020? I think that was in early 2020, right? So it's been like 2 years since that amazing speech from Ricky Gervais, but it still holds true even to this day, where he's like, you guys need to stop pretending that you are in charge of everyone's lives. People are sick and tired of it. They're sick and tired of you guys. That's basically what Ricky Gervais was saying. Middle America, just everyday Americans, they're sick and tired of you guys, and that is indeed what is happening here with Patricia Arquette. Patricia Arquette really thought she was going to be a visionary on this one. She was probably like, how come I don't hear anyone keep talking about taking Russia out of NATO? I'm going to bring this to everyone's attention and get this trending. So brave and stunning of Patricia. You're deaf a genius. So this is what she said a few years ago, where she said, well, for Lord's sake, if they would just do the minimum research before spouting off. And apparently she didn't take her own advice here. And then she tweeted out her very, very dumb thing. So she did respond to this, by the way. She did respond to this tweet that she put out that she deleted. Let me just point that out once again. She deleted it. She said this. Let me see if I can find it here. So she said, Jim Swift said, imagine being Patricia Arquette and not looking at your phone for like an hour and coming back to this, because she got absolutely annihilated on Twitter for that tweet. And she, like I said, she deleted it. But then she clapped back and said, I really couldn't give a shit. I'm dyslexic. I'm meant to end. They can kafifi themselves. And, so basically she's blaming it on her dyslexia. Maybe she was. Maybe she was being dyslexic with that and stuff.
Or maybe she's just really stupid.
Gotta love excuses people make for that. Be a lot easier just to own it.
I shouldn't laugh. You know why? Because we all make mistakes, right?
It's hard not to laugh, Rick Walker.
But I think the most important thing is, I don't think we should try to avoid giving these celebrities voices that are that much louder than other people's, because they're not smarter and they're not more qualified. But they do influence people. And I think that's unfortunate because, they're paid. They're paid off. They're hired often to repeat a particular position on a political issue, many of them. And we saw that. I don't think people are aware of this. But do you remember during the beginning of the pandemic, when we went through the first lockdowns and we had celebrities serenading us online? Musicians were giving like online concerts. Who do you think was paying for that? It was us with our tax dollars. Our government was paying those celebrities to soothe the masses. It was part of their, I'm certain of it, it was part of their psyop. It was a way to just have people stay at home, just entertain them, get them used to being locked down, get the public used to just being at home. We'll just give them some entertainment online. We'll pay all these celebrities, all these musicians to sing to the people. And while they're doing that, they can deliver our pro-lockdown, pro-restriction right, pro-pandemic, whatever, pro-government message, while we have them serenade people. So in Canada, we had people like Burton Cummings singing to people. We had, do you remember all of that?
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, who could
How do you forget
forget?
that?
How could you forget? But I just don't. I think a lot of people thought these people were doing it just out of the goodness of their heart.
We played one of those old music videos, and I had to tell you to shut it off because it drove me bananas.
Oh, that was the one where they were just saying "Stay the F home," right? That was terrible. Do you remember when they did that?
Don't play it again.
I'm not going to play it. No, it's okay. It's too late at night, and I have to go to sleep at some point, and I won't be able to sleep if I do. Terrible. Julie says, look what our tax dollars are being spent on. 336 biolabs around the world. Does it surprise anyone we had a pandemic that gave Big Pharma $16 trillion? This is criminal. Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. We did see the John Cena Taiwan incident.
Yeah. All this stuff.
That's a good point to make there, that China absolutely owns our entertainment business, because all these production companies, they don't give a crap about North America. They just want to go and open their movie in China.
Yeah.
That's it.
Sound Advice says, I don't think most people know about labs in Ukraine or anywhere before COVID came along. I think that's very true. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Like I said, I think that this stuff out of Ukraine, if there's any investigation done into any of this, it will lead to very, very dark places. And I think we'll find linkages all the way back to Wuhan. And I think that there are governments all around the world that would have a lot of explaining to do, especially in the wake of the pandemic. And that's sort of a theory on my part at this point. But based on all the evidence that we've seen unfold so far, I see linkages.
Well, as long as Jody Thomas isn't the one heading those investigations, we should have a little bit better answers.
Yeah. Well, let's invite her on. Let's invite Jeremy McKenzie on. I don't think we should put them on together because they'll fight.
Yeah,
it won't be good. But we need more information for people. We need to know. Or at least we should, call up the RCMP and see if we can get a statement.
Ooh, what about Gal Gadot's cringe Imagine video? I have not seen that.
Gal Gadot's, it's like the John Lennon Imagine song?
It's got to be, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Haven't seen that. And before we run that, we would need to check it for copyright issues.
It's going to be copyright. We're not.
Yeah, we don't want to get. Don't want to go down that path. And it is getting late. Somebody's saying good night. So with that, I am going to remind everyone to please consider supporting us, supporting our work at freedomreporters.com. freedomreporters.com. You can donate there to help us continue to do this. We are completely funded by you. And this is your show. This is a community of mavericks that we've created. And we just keep making new friends every night. And that's why I got to send out a big thank you to Lee for joining us earlier tonight. Just have to say, keep on trucking down there, guys. And at the Hagerstown Speedway, keep on doing those laps around the DC Beltway, and keep it peaceful, keep it lawful. And maybe you'll get some more politicians down there like Ted Cruz that came down today. Maybe you'll get some more ears to listen and build some more support for what you're trying to do down there as you continue to fight for freedom on your front, and we continue to fight for freedom on the information war front. We're going to keep fighting this battle. You can donate at freedomreporters.com, and I'll throw it over to Brendan to remind you to do the other thing to support us.
All right. Also, just remember, whenever you donate to us, communist cries, so that's always a great thing. And you could also support us by liking this video and selecting the subscribe button and the bell for notification. We stream here 7 nights a week, never stopping, never ending. We are the freedom machine. So go ahead and support us. We appreciate everybody who has supported us very much. So with that being said, my name is Brendan Kennedy, and I'm the co-host for Maverick News here. It's been an absolute slice. Have a good night.
And from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone for watching again tonight and for your support. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for every one of you. And with that being said, we will be back here tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless there's significant breaking news, in which case we will come back online and give you a news update from time to time, if necessary. Otherwise, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with more on the Maverick News Channel, where we bring you, as Freedom Reporters, programs that are the antivirus programs for your mind. Have a great night.